And we're rolling.
Well, how are you this evening?
I'm doing good, man. It's good to see you.
You too. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't even know where to start. We've had so many good conversations.
Been a few years.
Yeah, shit. I used to keep you up all night at your house, go over there and drink some beers, and we'd be in the yard till 3 in the morning.
Forgotten about that, Pat.
Like,
Those were
shit.
good nights, man.
Good shit, man.
Long talks like that over a campfire and a few beers. Those are memorable.
Yeah, we got to do another yard burn soon. Like, I got some stuff out there we can
Okay, I didn't know y'all did those.
toast it up, and well, I mean, I just have a little fire pit, you know. But
Okay.
yeah.
Little yard BQ on the industrial scale.
Yeah. Before Joey D left to Austin, we were burning some stuff out there, and he had some shit to get rid of. You know, he's like, he didn't want to throw it away. He wanted to burn it and just kind of sever the ties with some stuff. But it's funny. One of them was like this old guitar, and it wasn't worth anything. You know, the headstock was busted off and stuff, but it was just kind of funny, like torching that old guitar, and like he threw like some yearbooks and all kinds of shit in there. It was just like, oh, and there was some sheriffs out in the desert. Like, they weren't interested in what we were doing, but I'm sure they were looking over like, what's going on over there? Like some industrial lot with like a fire pit and
Bunch of young guys burning stuff.
It was just kind of funny, but yeah, we'll burn it up one of these days.
We periodically do that at the ski run. In fact, they'll probably do it this year if I was up there. They'll have a bonfire and sacrifice stuff to Uller to try and bring snow.
Oh, nice.
Like last time we did that, I sacrificed my wineskin, my Boda bag from the 80s, and then Uller did not deliver. I was very disappointed.
Oh, man. So there's no snow up there right now?
What we made is all that's there. Just this little, it looks like a marshmallow factory exploded on the bottom of the mountain because it's just this beginning area and the tubular, and that's all.
How much snow is that? Like how many, square footage, or is it like one hill, or like what is it?
It's really broken up into two areas. The beginner ski hill and the tube hill they're serviced by separate lifts, and they're actually broken up by a road. But how much snow, man? It's manufactured snow and natural snow work a little differently, but figure an inch of rain is going to turn into about quarter of an inch. An inch of snow turns into about a quarter of an inch of water. So we put 1 million gallons out there to get those two little ridiculous patches of snow.
Wow.
And we've had 55-degree days up there, and you're just standing there watching money wash into the parking lot.
Oh, man. So are you still doing ski instructing, or are you just running the gift shop or something?
This year I'm not doing anything. I was going to instruct, and then I had this problem with this last problem with my dad's stuff, and I can't fix it and commute. When you look at it's 40 minutes each way, and then you work an 8-hour day and $15 in gas. You're going, I just can't. I have to fix this problem first.
Sure.
I had hoped. There's no way the powers that be are going to let me get out of New Mexico this year. So I will get one more chance to ski instruct.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't want to leave town without doing it one more time.
How many years would it be?
My first one, I taught my first lesson in December of 1981. And I have not taught every year, but I sat down and worked it out with my girlfriend. I think it's 26 years I've taught skiing. Actually,
shit.
Ski season's teaching it. And I've skied this. I've got to ski this year because I can't break my streak. But this will be my 50th ski season.
Consecutively?
Never missed a season, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
We were talking about that earlier. I had a friend come by. He has a nephew that skates, and he wanted to come skate. And I was like, yeah, bring him on over. But we were talking, and I was like, man, if you had the stats on everything that you've done, like how many miles have you skied?
Yep.
You know? Or like backpack, like how many trail miles have you put in, or off trail miles? You know,
I did keep track of one of those things when I started working on my Ghost Town book. I kept track of how many miles I walked to shoot all those photos, and at 2,000 miles, I went, and I wasn't even 15% of the way done with the book yet.
No,
yeah, whatever.
Matt, I'm glad you brought that up. That's actually one of the things I wanted to bring up is the Ghost Town book. Is it still in progress, or?
I had given up on it, Pat. After 23 years of working on that book, I just said, screw it. I quit. My rationale being, if I'm 40% of the way done in 23 years, I will not live long enough to finish that book. And so I just put it behind me for a while. And then I kind of got mad at myself. and said, how many lifelong dreams are you going to throw out the window because you got frustrated and acted like a little girl? So I got mad and I got my motorcycle running again, broke out my camera gear, made sure it's all right, and tomorrow I start again.
Really?
Yeah, I'm going
that's the Oro Grande.
That's the Oro Grande trip. I'm going to go down and shoot a bunch of mines down there. Yeah,
that's freaking cool, man.
I've got a bunch of it done. I've just got to go find the old CDs where I shot the photos already, and then start. Since I'm not ski instructing this winter, February, March, April, when I would normally be instructing, and it won't be all that hot yet, I'm just going to start pounding the pavement and shooting photos and walking into some of these places and trying to get it done. I've worked too long to give up on it now.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. I've always been like a person for like nostalgia and stuff, like the water tower and the amphitheater and
Sure,
like icons, And when they go away, it's like this picture right here. This was a famous skate spot in San Francisco.
Oh, okay.
And it's called Hubba Hideout. And the name Hubba is like a ledge that goes downstairs. And it's like called the Hubba Ledge. But it got its name from this place because it's like it used to be a place where people would hang out and do drugs and like smoke crack and stuff.
Okay.
And they used to call crack like hubbas, like a bump or like it was like slang for crack or crack cocaine or something.
Gotcha.
But it was Hubba Hideout because that's where all the bums and homeless and drug addicts would hang out. But the only other people who cared about this place was the skaters. And it was actually like a bridge that went over the road, like down below it. It's like a far drop to the street below. It's like a bridge.
Okay.
But people would travel around the world to go skate some of these spots, you know, and then they kept knobbing the ledges, skate stopping them, and then they ripped out the landing, and people would still bring. They would like unknob it, like tear the skate stoppers off, and bring plywood and shit to land on, and eventually they just tore it all down. But you're like, to me, it's like it's all about those things. It's just like they're here now and then they're gone, and you're like, man, like it meant something to those who care, and to everybody else, it's
Sure.
like it's just dust in the wind, you know.
And that's what got me started on the Ghost Town books. Is I grew up hunting up at White Oaks. We had a hunting camp up there, and we'd go up every year for deer season. And White Oaks was a ghost town when I was a kid. There was nobody living there. And there was still a bunch of old buildings, and it was a dirt road, and it was a true ghost town. I get back from Texas, I drive up to White Oaks, and it's a paved road, and there's a bar with a neon sign and mobile homes and people. And like, well, so much for that ghost town, because now it's not a ghost town anymore.
Oh, man.
And then fire has taken a couple of them, and Ted Turner, the super rich guy, has destroyed a couple of them. And I said, man, I got to start preserving this while there's time. And that's what got me going. And I've worked too hard to quit. Yeah, I'm not that guy. So yeah, it's back in progress.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. Any good stories from any ghost towns that you visited? I'm sure you've got plenty, but anything stick out of like something you stumbled across that was like really, really cool? Like,
oh yeah, my favorite ever. There's a place called Jose, and it's north of Deming. Right north of Deming is a place called Cook's Peak. It's a big mountain. And there were a few small mines out there, nothing huge. But one of the places north of Cook's Peak was a little town called Jose. And I think it had 8 or 10 buildings at its height, and that was houses and businesses. And in 1996, I bootlegged my way across 13 miles of private property because there was not an agreement with BLM yet. And I put on my camis and just huffed it out across the middle of nowhere in the middle of the night so that I could be there when the sun rose. And there was a house that somebody walked out of that house in 1909 because that was a newspaper that was sitting on the table and never came back. There was shoes and an axe and a stack of firewood and a rocking chair on the front porch. And in the house was everything. All their furniture, all their clothes, books, a set of glasses on the table by the chair. And I was just blown away. And I went back there 10, 12 times just to sit there in that house and hang out and just vibe on these people's whole life just left behind. And then when the BLM finally made an agreement and got an easement to put a road in there, I knew it was over, so I went back one more time. And the first group of four-wheel drive guys that got back there drug everything out in the yard and made a bonfire out of it.
oh,
And you know, you're thinking, okay, you idiots, that one book you burned was a $5,000 book, but you're drunken bums, so you burned it. Way to go. It's worth more than your
didn't
pickup.
even know what you had there.
Yeah. But yeah, that was my favorite find ever, because it was just the door was locked and they just walked away, you know?
Just imagine that. Yeah. Wow.
Imagine someone coming to your house in 100 years and here's your drum set and your candy box and everything just sitting there for 100 years. How
Oh,
cool.
man.
How cool.
That is awesome. Yeah, man. I'd like to get out there with you one of these times. And
Now that you're off in the summers, and Mike said the same thing, he'd like to get out and do some of this. Now, I don't know that he will, but he said he'd like to. But yeah, let's do it because I'm going to make at least twice a month. I'm going out and finishing this stuff up. I'm going to finish all of my photographs this year
beautiful.
and then start the writing. It's just going to be overwhelming. I think it's going to be probably a 400-page book.
Sick.
And I'm not going to do a big history of all the towns. It's mostly going to be photographs and maybe a paragraph on each of the towns. Because you look at someplace like Diener, there's one rotten log left on the ground. That's all that's left at Diener. I don't need to do much on that one, you know? But places like the Magione mine that you and I have tried to get to with Mike,
Yeah.
that's maybe going to take a full page.
That one would be cool. I felt like cool going on that trip because it was like, you know, kind of like a underground, like ask forgiveness, not permission kind of deal.
Yes,
I
sir.
really believe in that philosophy too because, you know, you'll just get the door shut in your face. I'm not saying go break the law and do stupid shit, but like sometimes you just got to get it, you know, and just like fuck it. Like
there's a
hey,
word.
you guys aren't supposed to be here. And you're like, oh, my bad. Like
We'll leave, yeah.
we just took the wrong turn and just play dumb, you know?
There's a word for it in Europe. I can't remember what it is, but basically it's the concept of if I can proceed across your land, go to this side and cross the other and do no damage, usufruct. Usufruct is the term. If I can proceed across your land and do no damage, why should I not be permitted to? Now, that doesn't mean I can drive a bulldozer across your property or throw trash, but if there's a stream down there I want to fish in, I should be able to simply walk across your land and fish it. I'm with you.
Right. Whose land really is it anyway?
Yeah. And
know.
you know, if you're here to tag stuff, I don't want you on my property either. But if you're here to look at an old building, I get it. Knock yourself out, man.
It's like the leave only footprints, take only photographs kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
Just don't be an ass.
And I've run into a couple of people that were private property that I just went straight up their house and asked, told them what I was doing, and they said, hell, that's cool. Yeah, man. In fact, let me show you a couple of things you probably don't know about. And that's always neat. And then there's a couple of people who said, no, I don't care. And you're like, okay, we can do this easier. We can do it hard, but I'm going to get my photos, man. I promise you.
Yeah. Especially for the cause. You're like, man, I'm documenting something it's like withering away, and it's only a matter of time before all this shit's gone, you know, and I'm just...
And in 23 active years before I took my break, I only got close to getting caught once. And I was just stupid on my part.
Sure.
I can't smell, so I don't think about things like my scent carrying downwind.
A cigarette or something, or...
The dog smelled me.
Just you,
And the
yeah.
dog came. And I'm laying in the dirt going, yeah, I guess there's no getting out.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's good. I've got a lot of compression on these mics, so they're real sensitive, so it's like...
Yeah, I
could
noticed
hear-
those picking up.
You could hear every little thing. I don't know if that's good or bad.
Well, why don't we start with a sip, shall we?
Yeah. So we were. You've been experimenting with some different whiskeys. And
Whiskeys, rums, and vodkas I've gone through so far. Just kind of looking at what's different about them. Why is one in a plastic bottle for $9 and why is one $300? And is there $291 worth of difference? And which one? I used to enjoy drinking, but like most things in my 20s, I did everything to 11. And so I just kind of quit because, yeah. So
Yes.
I think I'm enjoying getting back into it. But I figured we'd do a little world tour. I've got 2 different American bourbons, one double oaked and one not. I've got a Canadian whiskey, I've got an Irish whiskey, and we've got a single malt Scotch. So we'll do kind of a whiskey world tour.
man,
But I think we'll start with what I consider the worst of the batch. Price be damned, just what I consider the worst, and that's the Crown Royal. Now, they've got a good name,
yeah,
but Crown, I think, is just, they've got Harley-Davidson complex, and they're pretty much living on their name.
right.
It's fine. It's not Mad Dog or anything, but it's fine. It's about the only way I can describe Crown Royal. And I went with a Mesquite because it's at least got a little something different to it. So
Sure.
slide me your glass over there.
Yeah, these are cool looking, man. Is there anything about these?
These are actually cordial or aperitif glasses for drinking liqueurs and that sort of thing. But it's got what they call a tulip shape. You notice it's round and contracts at the top. And what the whiskey aficionados are saying now is if you drink from one of these, because it tapers, it concentrates the smell. So you get a better odor palette. Now, me not being able to smell, again, it's not that big a deal to me. And quite frankly, every man I ever knew that was a whiskey drinker, and I don't mean alcoholic, but I mean a connoisseur, drank from a whiskey tumbler. Now, because we're going to drink a bunch of different whiskeys and we don't want to be too sloppy, I think this may be a bad idea.
I agree.
So we'll just pour little doses here in these. But we're going to start with the Crown Royal Mesquite, and we'll see how it goes.
Excellent.
And you may want to take the time to smell them a little bit.
Absolutely.
I won't bother because it's not going to do me any good. And any of these you like, we can certainly try another one. I just don't want to get too sloppy, you know what I mean?
Oh, I know exactly what you mean.
The one whiskey I did not bring that's really common is what we call a Tennessee whiskey, and that's Jack Daniels and George Dickel. And you don't need a primer on that. They're heavy, heavy corn whiskey. In fact, I think Jack Daniels is 80%, which is part of what makes it so hot and harsh. And I don't want to drink Tennessee whiskey, and you don't need any practice. So let's not drink bad whiskey.
Oh, man. I remember you gifted me a bottle of Jack Daniels a long time ago in my first apartment, and me and Ethan, tall Ethan Tillman.
Yeah.
Ethan Tallman. Ethan, we got trashed off the Jack Daniels, man.
Jack does that.
It's sour mash, right?
Yeah, it's that corn and sour mash, and it's just. I give Jack Daniels credit because it's the one thing that Georgia rednecks and Japanese businessmen have in common. But short of that, it's just God, it's awful whiskey. Just awful whiskey.
I'm not the biggest fan, but
Yep.
so this is the Crown Royal
This
Mesquite.
is Crown Royal Mesquite. Slancha.
Yeah. Get that smell.
And this will give you an opportunity to kind of differentiate between them. It's not a bad whiskey.
The mesquite's good.
And you can certainly tell it.
It's very smoky.
Can you smell the mesquite?
Yep. Mm-hmm. You can definitely taste it.
But boy, that's a nice warm.
That's good, man.
Now, Canadian whiskey, which is the Crown, is generally considered a rye whiskey. That's their primary grain, whereas Americans use a lot of corn, Canadians use a lot of rye. And it'll tend to be a little smoother and a little lighter colored than a lot of your American whiskey. But I don't know. It's a serviceable whiskey is about what I'll give it.
Alcohol is so interesting in the way that it's culturally differentiated and the way it's like shaped culture and like I mean it's like everything. It's crazy. Like civilization and beer and fermentation and sanitary drinking and I mean it's kind of hard to put it all into a story, but man, alcohol goes back a long way and of course everyone does it differently and it's just interesting. It's like food or anything else. It's just like there's a lot to it, to a culture, and it's a trip.
And it's always interesting to see what, especially places that didn't have a choice. If you're somewhere where you've got a shitload of rice but no corn, well, you're not going to make anything with corn. So you get things like sake, which is rice. And it's interesting to see what people came up with in their place,
Oh, yeah.
with what they had. I know the Native Americans back east, like the Iroquois and stuff, they made wine because they had grapes. But yes, out here, our tribes really did much booze, which is strange because we had the makings for it.
Like, I know like agave and tequila and all that, but what would we have around here, do you think?
You can make wine out of any fruit. Any fruit in the world will make wine. Anything that's got sugar in it, you can make wine out of. And you would have think that at some point they collected blueberries or raspberries or whatever from a bush and they went bad and fermented.
Sure.
Just by accident, you would have assumed it would have happened. But I guess they just didn't out here. Maybe they were just too migratory and not sedentary enough for something like that. I don't know. I can't answer that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's not a bad way to start. That's a perfectly serviceable whiskey.
Sure. Yeah, man.
I'd call that the Luby's cafeteria of whiskey.
That's a good way of putting it.
Well, we'll let it sit for a minute and kind of get that out of your mouth before we have another one.
Yeah. How's that Pilsner? Is that all right?
No, that's a good beer. Santa Fe Brewing? Yeah. Yeah. Weren't they working out of Carrizozo for a while?
Maybe.
I think they
I don't
were.
know for sure. I just know New Mexico has some damn good beers, man. Damn.
There was some microbrewery that was working out of Carrizozo back when Book of Eli was being filmed. I know it was open then. I don't know if that's it or not.
There's a lot. There's Marble, Sierra Blanca, Santa Fe. I think one called Monks, Bosque. There's a bunch of good New Mexico beers. It's like surprising. I'm like, damn.
It's easy to do now with modern technology, so why not?
Yeah.
When my dad was making beer in the 70s, it was a massive undertaking. He took over an entire bathroom for like 2 months, and the beer was awful.
Mm-hmm.
Going, okay. And now you can knock it out in your closet with a kit that you get on Amazon, you know?
Sure. I made a couple of them, but they were like box kits, like a Betty Crocker cake, but a beer. It's called Brewer's Best. But it still comes down to like following instructions and maintaining temperatures, and
Sure.
it's intricate, but it's still anyone can kind of do it. But
Not anyone can follow instructions, Pat,
that's right.
and have the discipline to do it every day.
Yeah, it's a trip. It's cool making one though, because you're like, hell yeah, like kind of made that, you know. I did a couple of them that were okay, and like one or two that were like really pretty damn good.
There you go.
One of them was an Oktoberfest. Now, I just like that style of beer anyway, so maybe I liked it because of that reason, but I think it came out really good. It's surprising.
Nice. I don't know that. Yeah, you did give me one of your beers. Yeah, I tried one of them.
Yeah.
I don't. God, it's been a long time ago.
It's been a minute.
Too many beers since then.
Yeah. Shit.
Well,
man.
what's been going on in your life that's different, Pat? I mean, how's the job?
I still have an existential crisis every now and then of like, when did this flip and I became the responsible adult figure, you know? But someone has to be there. And honestly, if they just have a certified teacher who shows up, it's like a miracle, you know, because there's always like shortages. And it's hard to keep people around. Like, even the short time I've been there, there's been a pretty high turnover rate. And so I don't get to play the new guy card anymore, but they leave you to your own, dude. Like they really leave it to your own. And especially that I teach art,
Right.
it's so open-ended. The standards are like so open-ended. I can almost just make up anything, and
Subjective opinion of
we
the
just
art.
roll with it.
Yeah.
Sometimes things are really cool and they work out. Sometimes it's like, maybe not next time. I'll do something else. But it's cool, you know. It's hard to get people to be creative now, like young people.
Right.
I'm not trying to be like, oh, like their generation or whatever, but it's like the phones and the instant gratification, and you can really see it. You're like, man, they're not used to spending time with their thoughts and like having to make something out of nothing. But creative problem solving is a useful skill, and that's what art is in a lot of ways. Is like, because someone can make the argument like, well, how the hell am I going to use this in my real life, you know? And that's true, but there's a lot of ways that, I mean, it takes people who can think outside the box to like be innovative and creative. And so like even an engineer, you know, might have the skills and the math and the STEM or whatever, science, technology,
Right.
engineering, math, all that stuff. But it takes someone with a creative mind to figure out like, well, how the hell is this bridge going to go from here to there? And
Right.
or what's it going to look like? I mean, there's all the math and all that too, but there's like the whole creative.
Not just computing the load, but thinking of it. Yeah.
Yeah, the ideas have to come from somewhere, you know. So I don't know. It's kind of hard to be like, yeah, here's where you're going to use drawing and painting in your life, but it's a way to like just self-generate something, and it's also like a patience and persistence kind of thing where you're like, you just have to try over and over and over, and like you'll start developing a skill you didn't know you had, and you realize that about yourself, how you have so much more that you didn't even know was there. And so that's kind of my job, is to try and help them find something they don't know is there. So
That's a cool thing. That's way better than pushing something that they don't care about, and you know they're. I took calculus in high school. You know how many times I've used calculus in high school? Never.
yeah,
So, and I know my teacher knew that, and so I hated it. She hated it. That's got to be a horrible way to live. And at least your job, you're teaching people to find something within them and bring it out, and they won't hate it when they find it.
yeah. Yeah, and I show them a lot of my old art too. I'm like, look where I started. I have a bunch of old, because I have this little like sketch exercise thing. It's like these little, it's like a piece of paper and it's got 6 little boxes and they're just free sketches. You can just do whatever you want. But it's just like if you keep them in a folder or something, you'll eventually have this catalog of little ideas that you've created, and then you can start building those into something later, or maybe just throw them away. But at least it's like a catalog of ideas, you know?
That's exactly what I do with song fragments. I'll come up with one line, and you write it down, just throw it in a folder. And down the road, maybe 4 or 5 of those lines will come together and be useful.
Exactly.
No different with art.
And I remember one of my art teachers would have us do them. She called them something different, but it was basically the same concept. And I have a folder. I have like some keepsake shit. Like just I think it's cool to save stuff from before.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's like a time capsule where you get a snippet of your old self.
Time self of your life, yeah.
Yeah. So I have some old writings and stuff that I did like early or late, like later years in high school or early college, and I kept some of those papers and stuff. But a lot of it was drawings and stuff too, and some of it was the drawings from I think it was my senior art class, and I was basically why I'm bringing it up though is like I have a painting that I did, and the students are like, "Oh, you did that? That's cool. That's awesome." And I'm like, "Yeah, but I didn't start there." I'm like, so I was like, "You know those little sketches I'm having you guys do?" I'm like, "Look, here's my old ones," and they're just like primitive, shitty little sketches, you know. But I'm like, "Yeah, see, I had to start somewhere too, you know." So it's kind of cool.
I like that.
So, but I'm still just fumbling and trying to figure it out.
Do you enjoy the job?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I totally do. I think the hardest part is just like any other job where it's like opportunity cost. I love working at the mill with Brent and talking shit and drinking coffee and making pizzas. I could do that, you know, with the right crew or the right people. I could do that forever. But there got to be a point where I just didn't want to spend any more of my time in that one particular corner of the earth because I only have so much time to spend. And I'm just like, man, I can't be spending so much time here, you know? So, like, with the school, it's like, that's the only thing you struggle with is you're like, man, you know, I'm not out doing my other things. But you get so much time off.
There's a bonus.
From the school.
The nicest time of year, you're off.
Yeah.
And then Christmas, you're off. So that's nice.
Every time you turn around, you're off again. Right about the time where you're, like, getting burned. You're like, cool, we have a break.
My stepkids had, Kristen had grown up with regular Monday through Friday school, off summers and all that. And then when she was in 7th or 8th grade, they went to the year-round. And she actually said she liked the year-round better because she was getting 8 or 10 days all the time. She said, summer, yeah, you got 2.5 months, but you don't do that much because you're just like, we've got time. Mm-hmm. She said, now we've got 10 days every couple of weeks. You make the most of it. And I guess it's the same thing. Is you've just got to motivate yourself to make the most of the time you have.
Yep.
I harassed Mike mercilessly. He's probably sick of listening to me, but that whole COVID time when he was off from the NRA, I'm like, dude, you had like 14 months. You could have learned a foreign language, learned to knit, learned to paint, put on 200 pounds of solid muscle and been Conan. You could have done anything. You had 14 months and you slept a lot and pretended to be Bob Marley. I mean, I'm not sure that's...
Yeah. We waste a lot of time, just people in general. We waste a lot. There's a lot left on the table. And you're like, man, it's hard to be motivated and to squeeze out every last drop all the time, every day. But there's a lot of time that just goes out the window if you're not careful.
You have to be careful because 5 minutes here and 5 minutes there adds up to a year. I've had a lot of time to think since Dad passed. A lot of time alone, which I have not had basically in my adult life. And I think that's part of what got me motivated to go back into this Ghost Town book was we have so much time. It's like a roller coaster. There's no second rides.
Oh,
when you're coming down that final hill, that's the end right there, buddy. And here at 55, I've got to think about how many more excellent days there's going to be. And you've got to find the motivation to go out and do the good things, the things that bring you joy, and quit. God, I'm still so angry I could punch myself in the face. I bought a motorcycle 5 years ago to help me finish this Ghost Town book. $4,500 motorcycle. I have never ridden it because I'm so busy doing all these things I need to do. Why do I need to do these things? So sit down, take a hard look at your life and go, this I do not need to do. They tell me, whoever they are, that I need to do this, but I don't really.
Yep.
And I'm not going to do that because there's only so many things I can do, and I'm going to do less that sucks and more that doesn't.
That's right. It's like something you said before. It's like working jobs we hate to buy shit we don't need. It's so true.
That's one of the most profound things I ever heard, you know?
Yeah.
Especially like me. I'm not going to marry again at this point in my life, and I certainly won't have children at this point in my life. I don't need to leave a legacy for anybody. I mean, okay, I want to leave my pistol to Catherine or something for Brent, individual stuff that I already have. But I don't need to leave a retirement fund for my children or whatever. So basically, I need to put clothes on my back, a roof over my head, and food in my mouth. Anything beyond that is wasted time. I should be doing anything, fishing, looking at flowers, watching the birds, counting rocks. Anything's better than going to work.
Absolutely.
I want to die owing American Express $200,000, and I want them to have a hitman looking for me because I just don't care.
Yeah.
I want to go down to get on my boat and just fish and be a worthless, stupid drunk because nothing makes any difference anyway. Unless you're Julius Caesar, nothing you do matters anyway.
You know,
So chill
yeah.
and have some fun.
I struggle with that too because sometimes you feel like a nihilist. You're like, what's the point? Like, well, what's the fucking point of anything? And like, what's the meaning of life? And like, what the meaning of life is whatever you define that
Sure.
your life means. Really, I mean, it's up for you. Everyone's meaning of life is different, but sometimes it's kind of gnarly when you think about the physical reality of everything, and you're like, okay, let's say we last for a long, long, long time. Eventually, like even the sun's gonna burn out. And that's fucking crazy. And then, you know, maybe we found some other place to go. Maybe we didn't. But, I mean, the longest we have is at least until the sun burns out, unless we find somewhere else to go.
Yeah.
Which,
That means
I
there's a
don't know.
finite time.
yeah. And that's everything. That's Beethoven and the dinosaurs and technology and
Twinkies and
everything.
cockroaches.
Like, there's that Metallica song called Blackened. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I don't care how low you tune your guitar or how fast you play. There's nothing more metal than Blackened.
All right.
Because of the theoretical concept. You're like, when the sun ends, like, that's it. That's metal as fuck. That's pretty hard.
There's a 70s song from a band called Bread, If. And it's a lovely, sweet little love song. But that's about what it is. The sun spinning and dying, and we're just going to go on the beach and hold hands till we die. You're like, oh, what a little love song that is.
Oh, wow.
Well, yeah, that Metallica Black, and that, you're right. That's about as metal as it can get.
I mean, and it's instrumentally, like, heavy, you know, and they're metal. Like, I mean, they're your favorite metal band's favorite metal band, you know, kind of like nowadays. It's like...
That's before they became a rock band for temporarily there.
Yeah, and but just the conceptual nature of that song is like, man, it's dark. Like, that's heavy.
And I almost double majored in college. I was one class short of a double major in history and philosophy. So I minored in philosophy. And this last 6 months or so, I've gone back to the classics. I've broken out a lot of the old stuff. And I don't know the man personally, and I have nothing against him as an individual. But modern philosophers, you look at people like Stefan Molyneux, I want to throat punch him just to shut him up. Just because you got a PhD doesn't mean you're smart. I know plenty of PhDs that really ought to be mowing lawns somewhere. Mm-hmm. If you look back at people like Kant, much as I despise the man, he was a genius, and Hobbes, Locke, Plato, and Socrates, and they can help you understand yourself and your place.
Yeah.
And it will give you some spatial orientation into where you're going, and is that where you want to go or not. I'm starting a new YouTube channel, and one of the things I'm going to do is just basically talk about issues, more not backpack stuff, just talk about personal issues. You cannot live your life to satisfy other people, no matter who those people are. Because you will suffer for it, and you'll never make them happy anyway.
No.
And so I think over the last 8 or 9 months, I've found out that I need to go back to the things that made me happy and quit living. I don't care if everyone thinks I'm a worthless bum. Well, Dan doesn't do shit. He just lives on a boat and fishes and drinks beer. I don't care. I may have to face Jesus one day, but I don't have to get judged by you. Peace.
Very few people would think that, and even if they did, fuck them. And everyone's too busy worried about themselves anyway. No one's worried about what you're doing, really. I mean, at the end of the day, hardly anyone, you know, so.
In this day and age, especially now that my dad's gone, there's about 5 people left on Earth that I care what they think anyway.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you, Brent, Mike, Kevin Walters, a couple of my fraternity brothers, everybody else, I don't care what you think. I don't care if you like me or don't like me. Piss off.
Yeah. Same here. I mean, you're like, all I can be is me. Mm-hmm. If I can't be me, then it's just some fake version of me. And if you don't like the real me, then, I mean, what else can I do? I can't be anything else.
And don't want to.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make myself less of a person or less happy to try and satisfy your vision of what I'm supposed to be.
That's ridiculous.
You be you, I'll be me.
That's
or we'll just quit speaking about it, you know?
yeah, and that's how it should be, you know, but people seem to feel different sometimes.
America, the land of the busybody. Somewhere, and I cannot tell you where it happened, but at some point, the Western world, and America in particular, became an it's perfect or it sucks system. You can't have a good day. It's an awesome, extreme, ass-kicking day, or it's a shit day. And that's no way to live, man.
Yeah.
You know, every day can't be Disney on 4th of July.
No.
But it doesn't mean it wasn't a kick-ass day.
Yep.
When I was still in high school, I made myself a promise that I was going to take the time to stop and watch, not just acknowledge, but stop and watch 1,000 sunrises and 1,000 sunsets. And I've done it. Not one of those moments was wasted.
No. Hell
but
no.
Every moment I've ever spent trying to worry about how I'm going to get the new Nikes was wasted. Every last minute, you know?
Yeah. That's a good point.
I think I'm going to look back on this last 6 months as my dad's final lesson to me. My last 6 months of peace to kind of find myself. I don't know.
Yeah, because you've kind of had to just go at it alone for a bit, you know, because you were with him, taking care of him and dealing with his stuff for a long time. And now it's just you, and it's like, oh shit, you know.
Christmas was weird. I did not see a living soul all day until Brent and April came by in the afternoon, and I was like, that was about to be a really weird day. I'm not trapped on a desert island. I'm in the middle of a suburb and go a whole day and not see one person. How weird would that be? And as it turned out, those were the only two people I saw or spoke to all day.
Yeah.
Kind of a trip.
That is a trip.
How many thousand people drove within 200 feet of my house in the course of the day? And we're all wrapped up in, I've got to go do whatever. Do you? Do you really?
Yeah.
I can promise you, when you're in the last moments of your life, when you're struggling for that last breath and can't get it, you're not going to go, man, I wish I'd watched more of the Kardashians on TV.
Oh, no.
I promise. I'm not a genius, but I can promise you that one.
Man, I wish I would have made an extra cool Facebook post before I went out. Like, no, man.
But you may wish you'd spent another hour sitting on a beach somewhere.
Yep.
Or counting butterflies or whatever brings the joy in your heart.
Yep.
I've been trying so hard for years now to get you to come up and go snowboarding. Not because like some people, well, man, it's better than skateboarding. No, it's not. It's different.
Mm-hmm.
And it's another thing you can put in your life that if it brings you 10 minutes of joy in the rest of your life, kick ass. It was worth the time.
Oh, fuck yeah. I definitely need to get up there and try it. It's not that I don't want to. I don't know why the hell I've never gone up there. I just...
Like you don't know somebody who can get you a ticket and a good lesson, too.
Yeah. I got to get up there. Would this year be good, being the shortage of snow, or...?
This year is as good as any because the first 2 days you're on a snowboard, even as a skateboarder, you're going to be better off to stay on the bunny hill and just work on technical. I know a lot of guys that are skateboarders and surfers will give them the basic 10 tips, and then they want to go to the mountain and just huck off down it. Well, okay, that's fun to an extent, but you're not learning anything by face planting into the mountain all the way down.
No.
Get out here and work on your turn. How many times did you stand around and just practice ollies till you got it down?
Oh, man, dude, I can't even tell you.
You didn't just go to the biggest skate park in America and try vert ramping, you know what I mean?
No, that's a good, quick way to fucking slab.
Exactly. So snowboarding, I think, is the same thing. And skiing. The first 2 days, just make run after run after run and work on your technicals. And then anywhere you go, you'll be fine because the building blocks, the foundation you built your snowboard house on is strong.
Absolutely.
And I see so many guys that obviously they've got talent and they're really fast coming down the mountain, but they are so uncoordinated that they look really ugly and they look like they're about to fall down every second of the trip. And you're just going, man, that's got to be exhausting to just hurl yourself around like that. Chill, slow down, bring everything in and flow.
Rhythm, man. Style. Like, yeah. You can't be a stiff out
That's
there.
it. And if they'd had an instructor in those first 2 hours, they'd have made 5 years worth of progress you're never going to make on your own.
Sure.
You know, I could put you up there with Keegan. If we get you up there, you need to be with Keegan. He's a good kid. Shout out, Keegan, if you see this. I've watched him teach, and he's so good at snowboarding because he can tell if you're struggling. And he'll think of, okay, that didn't work. Let's come at this from another way. And I get such a kick out of it when I'm doing it skiing too, but you don't see it when you're teaching. You see it with other people. At that minute, when your student gets it, and they turn around and they look for you like your mom and dad with that giant smile, and you're going, shit, I would do this job for free, man, you know?
Oh, yeah.
But those first couple of days, yeah, and then you're, with the skateboard skills you've got, 4 or 5 days in the snow, you could go to Wolf Creek and drop off any face in that place.
Oh, shit, yeah.
And it's so different and yet so much the same. I'm surprised I'm not a better snowboarder because I'm a damn good surfer, but I am the worst snowboarder you've ever seen for someone that actually tried to do it and wasn't drunk or anything. I'm just terrible at it.
Oh, man.
I can't move my feet, which you can do on a surfboard and snowboard. You're strapped in, and that's part of it. Is I keep wanting to move my toes and I can't.
No, it's all like toes and heels,
You know?
and yeah. I'll have to give it a shot, man.
Yeah, you got to get you up there and do that one of these days. Because you're still young enough that... I'm looking for the proper words here. It's not fear. Teaching older people is harder because they don't want to listen to you. Inherently, I'm a 43-year-old man. You haven't got shit to teach me. Well, you're not a ski instructor, so maybe I do have some things to teach you.
Oh, yeah.
And the older you get, even if it's subconscious, it's harder to overcome that. No, I don't think I want to do that.
I get it. Oh, yeah.
And it probably is subconscious. I mean, unless you get one of those guys that's got 17 nose rings and blue hair and you just go, screw you. You've got a subconscious bias against taking orders from anybody. We're Americans. So when your instructor goes, do this, you go, meh. One of my instructors, 2 years I had at the school, said, Dan, I noticed that every time you teach a lesson, you shout at people. And I said, So why do you shout? I said, I'm here to treat you like a Marine recruit at basic. I'm going to scare the shit out of you until you do what I tell you to do. And when you do that, you're going to have a wonderful time. And you're not going to look back and go, Dan was a tyrant. You're going to look back and go, man, Dan was an amazing instructor. Yeah. And if I'm nice to you and you don't learn to ski, you'll look back and hate me.
Sure.
So I'm going to shout and scare the shit out of you until you go, yes, Dad, I'll do that. And then it's all going to be fine.
Well, at least then you'll be successful on your skiing, you know?
Exactly.
Like catching some slam.
You paid a lot of money. You came a long way to be here. I want you to have a good time, man.
Fucking A.
I've been a beginner at things before, and being your first day at anything sucks. So I'm going to make it as easy for you as I can, because I've been doing this since your daddy was a little boy.
Well, and someone can just tell you little things that make all the difference. Like there's some things I've discovered on guitar way later in my guitar playing where I'm like, man, if I had only had that little trick like years ago, like just a little octave trick, like if you skip a string and have a power chord shape. Keith and I were talking about this, but it's like there's your octave, and then you could just find all the notes all over the place. So if you know one note, you know these, you automatically know this note because that rule never changes, and then that note becomes this note, and that never changes, and it's for every note everywhere, and all of a sudden you just know all the notes.
Music is math. That's why computers can write songs. And
it's just like crazy. I was noticing some cool shit like on the old games, like at Brent's arcade.
Oh yeah,
Brent and Daniel's arcade. The arcade dungeon, man. Some of those pinball machines, man. He's got one called he's still working on it, but it's a haunted house.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And he was looking at it for a while, but it's got these wicked ass like sweep arpeggios, like shred stuff, but it's like video game sounds, you know. But I'm just like, stuff you wouldn't have noticed. I wouldn't have noticed before, but
right.
Now I'm just like I can hear like those wicked like crazy arpeggio notes, and it's like whenever you make a certain move in the pinball game, it like just goes the fuck off, and it just like it's like a video game 8-bit like sweep arpeggio crazy shit, you know. But
nice,
it's a trip.
Oh, that makes me think, you know, I bought that Explorer about 7 or 8 years ago now. I was going to have my dad paint it.
Oh shit,
he never did. But now it's apart. And I've been without it so long that I'm going to go ahead and make that the guitar. I'm going to make the metal guitar out of it. I'm going to go ahead and route the body. I'm going to put a Kaler locking tremolo in it, which I've wanted since the 80s. DiMarzio pickups the whole bit and turn it into my metal guitar. Sick. And then I'm going to paint it the way I think he'd have done it.
Perfect. Yeah, man.
I was giving him crap about it just a couple of days before he died. I'm like, Dad, I need you to do something for me before you go. And he's like, what, son? What can I do? I said, get your ass up and go airbrush my guitar. Fuck you, boy.
Oh, man.
$1,400 guitar I've never played that I've had 8 years.
Oh, man. Because it's like a blue or something, or a camo?
It's a sky blue. That's why I bought it, because I hate it so much. And I knew I would never, ever be caught dead with it. So I bought that color so I would not, yeah, it'll be fine. No, it will never be fine in that color. It makes my Volvo look subdued. It is a horrible, horrible guitar.
Right on, man.
But it's an honest-to-God Gibson Explorer, and it's going to have a Kaler tremolo and DiMarzio pickups and everything I always wanted.
Fucking A.
Now, I'm never going to be good enough to justify the guitar, but it doesn't mean I can't have it.
Sure.
I'm not as good as my motorcycle is fast, but I still enjoy riding it.
Man. Yeah, that's an interesting story about your Strat that came back to you too, man.
Oh.
I mean, you told me about it, but like,
Dude.
what's the story behind that? Like,
I had a weird moment, Pat, in that I just gave up music to the point that I wasn't listening to music in the car when I was driving around. I gave up.
mm-hmm.
Sold everything that I owned except my dad's keyboard because it was dad's, and the little PA system you bought me because you got it for me.
Mm-hmm.
I sold everything else. And the guy that I sold this guitar to on Reverb, we went back and forth in email quite a few times. He's like, man, I cannot believe you're going to get rid of this guitar, considering the story behind it. And I said, man, I think I'm done. I don't think it's in me anymore. And he said, fine. So I shipped him the guitar, and about 2 or 3 weeks after I shipped, maybe a month after I shipped the guitar, I got an email from him. I said, hey, something's headed your way. Keep an eye out for it. I'm like, cool. So this giant box shows up at my door. I'm like, what in the hell is this? And I realize it's from that guy. I'm like, what is the deal? So I open it up, and it's my guitar. And there's a note. The volume pot has been going bad for about the last 18 months, and I bought one. I just never got it in. I bought an actual Fender one from that vintage, so it's the right one.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was going to go ahead and change it out. And inside the pick guard was a note from Donna, the girl that bought me that guitar in 1987. And he was like, dude, I don't care what you do, but I cannot own this guitar. So pay me the money when you've got it. Here's your guitar. It's supposed to be with you, bro.
Wow.
I have it back.
The Strat that came back.
Yeah. I did go so far as to buy 2 new foot pedals and an amp. I haven't played it yet, but I did buy 2 new foot pedals and an amp. And I kind of, that's something else I thought about over these last 6 months. Everybody that plays for very long has got a reason that they play.
Mm-hmm.
You want to become a master of your instrument like Yngwie Malmsteen. You want to write the great song like Paul McCartney. You want to get drunk and get new chicks all the time. Like whatever. I don't care. Everybody's got a reason.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I play is to play live. That's all I care about. And when that band in Ruidoso broke up, I knew that was it. It's the only band I'd managed to put together in 25 years in this town.
Mm.
And Mike and I are never going to play live because it's just something that he does on the side. He's never going to get that into it because he's got a wife and kids in a real life. You know what I mean? We're not the Rolling Stones.
Sure.
And I just said, I can't. That's what happened. If I'm not going to play live, I didn't want to play anymore. And that's what happened.
Mm.
And I'm glad I've got the guitar back because when I get down where I'm headed, there's a huge music scene. There must be 75 bars around Mobile Bay that have got live music, little beach bars with live music. And that's just around the bay. Mobile's like 700,000 people. And that's not counting any of the towns in Mississippi or what's in New Orleans or what's in Florida. But there's a huge music scene in the South. It's not going to be a problem finding people to play with. So I'm glad that I didn't let that guitar, or that Allah, nature, whoever, sent that guitar back to me.
Yeah.
I have never played a live gig in my life without that guitar. So it would have been really weird.
Right. No, that's cool that it came back. It's cool how it came back.
Yeah, the guy was, I can't imagine ever meeting him, but that's one of the more amazing things anybody's ever done for me. He basically kicked me square in the ass via email. It was cool.
That's beautiful. Well, shit. Should we do another whiskey?
Sure, why not? Let's see.
Here's another one of those if you need it.
Okay. Let's step up the scale. All right, this is a Woodford Reserve. It's a Kentucky bourbon. Bourbon, there's a whole list of things something's got to be bourbon. But it's heavy in corn. Whereas Scotch and Irish whiskey tend to be more heavy in other grains that they ferment. American stuff tends to be heavy in corn. So this is going to be, I think the flavor's similar to the Canadian Mist, but different because it doesn't have the rye. It's got so much more corn. Okay. But it's double oaked, which means they age it in one cask, then they drain it out and put it in another completely new charred cask and then age it in that. And it's supposed to smooth it a little bit. But you'll notice the difference in color between the Canadian and the American. And that's the charcoal aging. I don't know. This is, as bourbons go, Woodford's pretty good stuff. I'm not a huge bourbon fan, but Woodford's pretty good stuff.
Heck yeah.
I'm not feeling much of a buzz yet, so I think we're doing okay.
Yeah, we're doing okay.
I'm just feeling pleasant. All right. Now, a little tip for you on the long term in whiskey is if it's got a cork, it's going to be a better whiskey. Don't ever buy whiskey in a plastic bottle. I don't care how poor or desperate you are, buy shitty beer instead, but don't ever buy whiskey in a plastic bottle. And if it's got a metal screw cap, be prepared for a brutal hangover. Just that's a general rule of thumb. Yeah, it's a Woodford Reserve double oaked. That's about a $55, $60 bottle, I guess.
It looks good, man.
It's a decent whiskey. It really is. And if you're a bourbon guy, you'll love it.
It's presented well. Like, it's pretty nice.
Yeah, it's funny that, your most famous whiskeys in the world are probably Jack Daniels and Jim Beam. And neither one of them very fancy packaging. But they've had the same packaging for 100 years, so they can get away with it. New stuff's got to be gnarly and extreme,
Yeah.
All right, well, my favorite is Sláinte, which is Irish. So, Sláinte.
Nice.
Yeah. There's that corn. It's hot. Notice how much less smooth it is than that Canadian? That's at high corn content. Bah.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, still not bad.
No, it's not. It's a hell of a lot better than the cheap crap we normally drink.
It's crazy how there's like different layers to it. Like there's the front end, there's the mouthfeel, there's the swallow, like the aftertaste. Like, because it's a little harsh at first, but it's got a good aftertaste.
It does. And that's, I think, a sign of a pretty good whiskey. I can't claim to be a connoisseur. Because I can't smell, I know I'm missing part of the experience.
Sure.
But I can certainly tell you the difference between whiskeys I like and whiskeys I don't. And that's really about all that matters. I mean, I'm not trying to get a job working for George Dickolas. Oh, yes. Warm it in my hand. And, it's February 93.
That's crazy, man, how people can, like, really, really tell. Like, there's some people out there that are straight experts. And you're like, damn, that's crazy.
I'm always fascinated by people who have, and I don't care what it is, one unbelievable skill. Like someone who can take 6 glasses of wine and tell me that's awesome. My dad had perfect pitch. You can put him in the middle of the room and go, sing me a G sharp. And he'll be right on it. And you're going, you gotta be kidding me, man.
How the hell is that even possible? Yeah.
But those kind of people impress me that have got that. It always blows me away. Yeah, that's a good whiskey. Leaves a nice smooth burn going down. Not bad.
Not bad.
Not bad.
Yeah, it's a good thing we're doing these little ones.
Oh, yeah. 6 shots, and a couple of beers. And
yeah, oh, yeah.
I do like the beer, Pat. That's good.
Yeah, I knew you liked Pilsner, so I was like, I'll get... I was glad they had that one, because, I like the New Mexico stuff quite a bit.
The one lager I really like, and it's way out of character for me, is that Jamaican Red Stripe.
Oh, yeah.
I like it, and that is not a beer you would think I would like.
I know. It crossed my mind earlier,
yeah,
Red Stripe. And I was like, oh, yeah, DanO likes that one, yeah.
James Beard, there's something about beer he's got an allergy to, one of my fraternity brothers. And for whatever it is that he can drink that Red Stripe. And he turned me onto it in a place in San Antonio. We sat there and just got alarmingly drunk. And if he weren't a federal agent, we might have gotten arrested. So.
Oh, yeah. Friends in high places.
One of my frat brothers was a Mexican national who was coming to college in America. And his father at the time was Consul General of Mexico, very powerful man. And he gave me his business card one night and said, if he ever gets into trouble, call me. And he got into trouble one night. We're coming back from Mexico into the U.S. And U.S. citizen? Yes. U.S. citizen? Yes. U.S. citizen? Gay? In a cage, no sense of humor. And I'm like, oh, man. And I'm 10 years older than the rest of these guys. I'm like, okay, look, sir, I'm trying not to be raw here because I know I'm very drunk, but this is going to be a bad deal for you and me because you don't know who that kid is, bro. And really, he's got a green card. He's a college kid. He was drunk. He thought it was funny. Let him go before this gets ugly for everybody involved. He's like, hi, man. So I went across the street, dug that business card out, found a phone booth, and called at 3:15 in the morning at their time. And a servant answered the phone. I explained who I was, and they said, one moment. And Senor Gamboa got on the phone, and he said, Mr. King. And I told him what was up. He said, give me the number and wait there. I said, yes, sir. He called me back in about 4 minutes and said, you may collect my son. I said, very well, sir. And I went across the street, and that Border Patrol guy's there, and he said, I don't know you. I don't want to know you. Get that kid, and you get the fuck out of my building. I'm like, wow, okay.
Yeah. Some people just have connections, man.
Well, he was probably the number 4 or 5 most powerful man in Mexico at that point. Not that wasn't cartel. And then you're like, yeah, I don't think that was it. You don't want to arrest his kid over something, over a stupid prank.
No, hell no.
He will literally end you. Literally.
Oh, shit. Yeah, some mafia shit. Mexican mafia shit. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
He was such a nice man, too. Mexico was weird. We used to do a lot of business with doctors down there when I worked in the medical field. And for whatever reason, they didn't want to do business with the Zeiss distributor from Mexico. And I don't know if it was a corruption thing or what, but they'd come to us. And so we'd put scopes together for them in Texas, and they'd fly up from Mexico on the president of Mexico's airplane, and we'd load microscopes in that sucker, and they'd fly back to Mexico on an airplane that could not be searched by the federales. And you're like, okay.
Yeah, holy shit.
I am pleasantly buzzed, Pat. That's a little whiskey, couple of beers, good convo. I like it.
It's warm, man. It's good. It's good for this time of year. That's for sure. Because it's gotten chilly out today.
It has, yeah.
I mean, it's a warm winter. I mean, it's December, and it's, like, still pretty warm. But, like, there's that chill in the air, though, you know.
I was noticing coming over, you're like, ooh, a little chilly.
Yeah, so that whiskey is good, man.
I have a cat living in my house right now. My dad had one remaining inside cat. All the rest of them have died, and one outside cat. And that 22-degree night we had about 2 weeks ago, I came out in the morning, and there she is in the driveway. I'm like, okay. So I went to get a bag to put her in, and when I picked her up, she was still making noise. And I'm like, oh, my God. She's a cat sickle.
Oh,
she literally
shit.
almost froze to death. So I took her inside, laid her in front of the heater for a while, and she came back. And I'm like, I can't do this, man. I can't put her back outside. She's so old and so skinny. So I have a house cat right now.
Wow.
Probably for not much longer. My guess
Man,
is a few
the
days.
cats, I swear, man, there's been some weird stories over here with some cats, too.
Really?
Like, well, we have these 2 outside cats. My mom rescued one of the cats. She lives next door. She rescued this cat that was pregnant, female cat, pregnant, obviously. So the cat had some kittens, and she got rid of all the kittens, rehomed them except one, let the mom keep one, and then was like, fuck it. Like, I rescued her, took her in. This was like a year ago, winter, I think. Okay. So she took her in, and same kind of situation. It was cold as fuck. Stray cat, pregnant. Anyway, she took the cat in. The cat had its kittens, got rid of most of them except for one, and then put them back outside, the mom and the son. And they've been around for a while, and they're holding it down. They're doing fine. But then recently, like just a couple of days ago, they both disappeared. And they're like, okay, well, sometimes outside cats, it just happens. They just disappear. You never know really what the story is, but sometimes cats just disappear. And we're like, what the fuck? So we still haven't seen the mama cat anywhere in a while. But, like, we've still been going around the property. Like, they, my mom and my aunt, they put out some food, and we're calling for them and whatever. They go outside this morning after a couple days of calling for the cats, and they hear a meow. And then they look up, and the telephone pole behind the building, and the building that we're in is pretty tall, like 15 foot or something at least, taller than a house. And the telephone pole is quite a bit taller. I'd say like 20 feet in the air. And the cat's 20 feet in the air just sitting on the transformer up there. on the telephone pole, just meowing. And you're like, and I went and looked. I'm like, how the hell did he get up here? There's no way up there. Like, none. Like, he either spontaneously, like, teleported up there, or he was chased up that bitch and somehow climbed that thing. And then I started YouTubing it, like cat stuck on telephone pole or whatever. And of course, there's no footage. You can't really find anything of a cat getting up there. But they're after people realize it's up there, then they bust out their cameras and film, and they're like, oh, how he was rescued. But a lot of them, they get a cherry picker or something, and they try to get up there and rescue him. But the cat, like a lot of times, they can't even get to the cat. As soon as they get close to the cat gets spooked and starts like literally backing down.
As long as he gets down, yeah.
It's a trip watching him. But the fire department came. This is just today. The fire department came and they're like, we can't do nothing because he's on the power line. Like for liability and whatever, okay. We can't do shit. They're like, call P&M or call the power company or whatever. And so they're like, yeah, we've got some other stuff going on, but we'll be over there. And they actually showed up faster than I thought they would. Poor cat's just fucking stuck up there, dude. It's like windy and cold as shit. And he's just all around. And you're like, God damn, you little fucker. Like, you feel bad for him, but you're like, how the hell did you get up there? Well, I got on the roof just to kind of assess it. I wasn't going to try anything, but I just wanted to see, like, how did he get up there? And I was just looking at him from the roof, and I was like, well, he could make the jump. Like, you couldn't jump from the roof to the pole, but you could jump from the pole back to the roof because he had the height.
Gotcha.
The distance wasn't too far. I'm like, he could make it. So the power company comes, and, like, they were going to... I don't know what they were doing, but they had this big extension pole, and they just kept putting it up further and further, and it got close enough to him, and it just spooked him, and he just jumped to the roof, and he's like a flying squirrel, and he just jumped to the roof, and he was fine, and then like it's just like it's a trip, dude. And these cats are crazy, man. The shit they get into.
I wonder how often that happens around America every day, you know?
Dude, a lot. Like, I watched some video, and there was like a bobcat on top of a pole somewhere, and you're just like, what the hell?
What would put a bobcat up there? It'd be something gnarly to chase a bobcat. Because they don't really run for much.
No. I've seen one coyote out here before, the whole time we've been here.
It's funny you would say that, because there was one ran across the street in front of my car coming over here tonight on New York.
No shit.
You know, driving in front of the Flickinger, and he crossed right in front of me. You're like, hey, Kyle, what's going on?
I've seen a fox or two and only like one coyote. And other than that, I've never seen any wildlife, really.
That's interesting. Of course, you've got a big chain link fence everywhere except that gate.
Yeah.
Probably didn't hurt.
And we would get huge birds, like birds of prey and stuff, but like, you know, hawks and falcons and shit or whatever they are. I don't know what they are. Amy could tell you what they are.
How long have you been out here?
Since June of 2012.
Already that long.
So it's been 9 years. Wow. Coming up on 10.
That's crazy, Pat.
That is insane.
Can't believe I've known you this long. You were just in high school, and now here's Pat, the teacher with a master's degree.
Oh, what the hell? Yeah, how did that ever happen? Oh, man.
I was talking to a buddy of mine the other day, and I don't know if I'd mentioned this to you or not. Mobile, Alabama, which is kind of where I'm going to want to base the boat in the long run, because it's basically right in the middle of the Gulf Coast. So it gives me even space to Florida and to Texas. The McDonald's there, $1,800 signing bonus, $16.75 an hour. You pick your shift.
Wow.
I'm like, so you're telling me I can walk down there, get a job at McDonald's, work 20 hours a week, not care about anything in the world, and make more money than I make here working like a convict every day?
Turkish prisoner.
Yeah, like Turkish prisoner, exactly. So just show up and work the fryer. I have no responsibility. I don't care about anything. I don't care if the building burns down. It's not my problem.
The screens tell you exactly what to do. You're just like, oh, large fry. Okay.
Show up for work on time, relatively sober and in uniform, and just make fries all day. And then go home.
$1,800 sign-in bonus?
Sign-in bonus and $16.75 an hour.
Man.
Are you kidding me? I don't think I'm going to ever have anything that matters again in my life. Why? Just go down there, sit on a boat. I need about $1,000 a month to pay for insurance and everything. Beyond that, yeah, and just not care. What do you do? I work at McDonald's. Well, don't you have any pride? Yeah, I have pride in the fact that I don't have a real job and don't have to. What do you do? I fish and I drink mostly. That's kind of my thing is I fish and I drink.
Yeah, work to live, not live to work kind of thing.
Yeah.
You're like, I just work enough just to get by, you know?
I really think that shame is part of the program because if you look at the ads for new telephones, if you don't have this phone, you're not a man. It's a cell phone, man. I will stomp your ass, so I'm that manly, and I don't think your cell phone's going to stop me. But if you don't buy this kind of cologne for your girlfriend, you're not a man. It's shame to make you comply with their system.
It's pretty bad.
And when you have no more shame, when you cannot be shamed, you're like, whatever, man. I'm just going to be happy instead.
Yeah. Yeah, man, the advertisements and shit, it's just crazy. You know, if you let it get to you, like it can really, really fuck with you. Like if you fall for it, you know?
You got to have a new car every 3 years and this camera and that and $80 Nikes. Why? I broke down, when I worked at the golf course last year, I broke down and bought a set of actual Adidas tennis shoes because I wanted to look good for work. Did they last any longer than the $23 Payless shoes? No, but they were $60 more.
Yeah.
And you're going, okay, so I bought shoes from a Chinese sweatshop because I let my ego get in the way. Or I could have bought shoes from a Chinese sweatshop that were super cheap and put that money into, I don't know, lobster or gas for my boat or whatever.
Yeah, it all comes down to values because there's some people with, in certain brands and you're like brand loyalty or the brand stands for something you like, cheaper or more expensive or whatever. Or it's just something that's specific. But I mean, for the most part, as long as you have an intention, as long as you're like consciously aware of what you're consuming, I think is the key because it's just like,
that's a good point.
Why are you buying those? I mean, your values do you really value it for that much? If so, why? Or like certain skate footwear. Like I've been skating in Vans shoes quite a bit, and I like the vulcanized shoe construction. I like the style and the way they hold up and the way they But it's like that's your first point of contact with the skateboard, and the footwear is important.
You bet.
And it's like if you look down at your feet and you have like cool shoes and then that skate and feel good, it's like it helps you skate better, But I mean, part of that is placebo or psychological, but part of it is like the actual performance. And
sure, a t-shirt wouldn't change anything about the way you skate, but the shoes could.
Right.
So I can understand there's a place you put your money. When I'm skiing, I buy good boots, I buy good skis. I ski in crappy blue jeans and dime store hats because they don't affect my skiing.
Right.
I'd rather put the money into, I'd rather have an extra day's lift ticket than an $800 Descent ski gear, which the first time you fall and drag it on a barbed wire fence and rip the elbow out of your $300 jacket. Yeah, screw that.
I'm sure you've seen the same with the backpacking industry.
Oh my God.
Overpriced, underrated gear. Like you have some stuff that's so good that doesn't see the light of day that people don't know. Like, man, if you just had these couple of things, you'd be set. And then you have other shit that's just like, man, that's all gimmick. Like, it's no functional.
Dromedary, and I hate to slag dromedary. Camelback is the old school water source, right?
Uh-huh.
Well, dromedary and camel, nobody got ripped off there. Anyway, they came in and started making bags. My experience with dromedary has been, if you want to practice dying of thirst, carry dromedary, because when you have to have it, it will spring a leak, and you'll go, oh shit, I'm out of water at a very, very bad time. So do I think it's worth it? And like the Coleman ones, I bought one just as a test, brand new, took it home, filled it with water, and it leaked.
Wow.
You're going, okay, so I don't remember what I paid, $13 or $14, but it was $13 or $14 too much because it was useless.
Wow.
And we have been convinced, and the media is complicit in this, that you have to have bigger, better, more. That's the American dream.
Yeah.
Is it?
I was talking about that with my dad. It's like these companies, it's like every year they want to make more money. Mm-hmm. And it's always the bottom line. Like, how can we make more money next time? And like, how many more years can you go in making more and more money each time? Like, I'm like, I don't know. Like any industry you're in the business of whatever you're doing, like it just seems to me like reality would say some years you might not make as much as you did that one year or whatever. Sure. But it'll be like this up and down. But
as long as you average out in the green.
Right, but these companies, they just want this steady, like, incline upward growth forever, and you're like, how's that realistic?
It's not.
And the quality goes down. It's inversely proportional, right? Where it's
Sure.
like sales go up, quality goes down, and you're like, what are you guys doing? You know?
Part of that, I think, comes back to the Western and in particular American impatience. I can't remember who the guy was talking about it. Simon Sinek did a TED talk on it. And he said, I was interviewing these kids, and this kid said, well, I'm going to quit my job. And Ted said, well, Simon said, why? He said, well, I just don't feel like I'm making an impact. And Simon said, you've been here 6 months. No, you're not making an impact yet. Have some patience. And America's not good at that. And we are primed and trained to not be good at that. Mm-hmm. If we don't all get on the economic train and run like hamsters on the wheel, all of these companies that want to make more money every year can't. If more of us start wearing used pants from the thrift store and driving 20-year-old cars, there'll be less of those companies making new stuff.
Yeah.
And they can't have that.
I always thought about that too. Like we've talked about this, but it's like if I hit it just stupid rich overnight, hit the lottery or something, it's not like I'm going to go throw all my clothes away and be like, these aren't good enough for me anymore. Like I'll still be the same dude. It'll just be Orange Curb just dialed up to the fucking knobs ripped off.
There
like,
you go.
You know, it'll just be like, it's the same shit, just like amplified. It's not like I'm going to change and be like, I'm going to throw.
I wear Wrangler jeans. It doesn't matter how much money I have, I'd wear Wranglers.
Sure.
So $20 million isn't going to mean I'm going to wear Givenchy.
No.
I don't want to own a football team. I'm just Dan. You know,
That's right.
I'll probably eat better steaks than I do now because I can afford them.
Yeah, the things you like and your interests will just be dialed up, but it's not like you're going to just change who you are. I don't know, man. It's crazy what money does to people.
I don't. You know, we say crazy what money does to people. I don't know what it would do to me because I've never been filthy rich.
Right.
But I would not mind trying it out to see.
I wouldn't mind trying it. I think it's good to like have the reverse though, where you've been a good chunk of time in your adult life of not having a whole lot and really having to claw your way into something. And then if you have money, you understand the value of it and you're like, okay.
Brent made an interesting point at Halloween a couple of years ago when we were setting up. He was talking about when he bought this teapot. And I remember the teapot. It's a red lacquer stainless steel teapot that he got it, you know, IKEA or Pier 1 Imports or wherever. But it was $19 at a time when $19 meant something to us. And Brent stepped up and bought a good teapot. And he had that teapot for 30 years that I know of. Mm-hmm. And at no point did he feel like, well, you know, I'm making more money now. This teapot, I'm going to go get a fancy one. You know what I mean? And the fact that we suffered so much that teapot was all the money he had for those 2 weeks has put us in a different place. I don't care what my car looks like. I care that it's reliable enough to get me from point A to point B and back. It's not going to make my junk any bigger or make me any richer because my car is brand new. In fact, it'll make me poorer.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I could. There's several times where I'm like, I should maybe get a different car or something. I've been driving the same car forever, like 14 years or something. But it's like, you can't kill that fucker. It just keeps going, and I own it. But when I look at like a fancy new truck or something, I just see like a price tag above it, a remaining balance, just floating above it, like a holographic 3D remaining balance of like, yeah, I still owe $48,000 plus interest. And I'm like, I mean, I owe money on other shit, student loans and
sure,
whatever. I've got my own fucking demons, you know, but I'm doing pretty good, kind of, you know. But I'm like, yeah, I don't want no $48,000 truck. I'll keep driving the Corolla that's paid off. Oh, yeah. Fuck it.
When I don't care. We bought our house in El Paso, Lisa and I paid, I think we got it for $118,000. Which was pretty good at the time. And my dad almost gagged. I'm like, what's the problem? He goes, Danny, your mother and I paid $13,000 for our first house. Yes, in 1963, when you were making $194 a month. Things have changed. A $118,000 house now is a shack in most places, Dad. You know what I mean? $118,000 in San Diego won't buy you a dumpster. Literally, a steel dumpster.
Gosh.
Kristen, my stepdaughter, was living in New York City. And she was paying $900 a month for a walk-in closet with kitchen privileges.
I remember you telling me about in New York, right?
And you're going, to live in a closet?
$900.
Shit. Big apple my ass, you know what I mean?
Oh, man.
Although she went back to visit, somebody recently visited a friend, she said it's a ghost town. Because the COVID lockdown,
I'm sure.
it pushed so many people to they said, screw this. If I'm going to work from home, I don't have to be in New York.
Right.
And she said, now that it's open, it's a ghost town.
It's one of those, oh shit, yeah, that could go in your ghost town book, one of these New York City. But no, it'll be one of those places where you could buy like a top floor of a skyscraper for like pennies on the dollar. And if it ever comes back around, you'd be like filthy ass rich. So now's the time to buy like a loft in New York.
If you had a little money, yeah.
If you had some money.
When Brett and I first got to Houston, the bottom had dropped out of oil. And there were PhDs, oil field geologists, working at McDonald's because that's all the job they could get. And you could buy an entire floor on one of the condos downtown, a whole floor of a condo for $250,000. Now, I think you could rent each one of those offices for $250,000 a month.
Wow.
So if you'd had $250,000 then, just move in, live there, call it your house, wait 10 years, and your $250,000 becomes $17 million plus a $200,000 a month income for the rest of your life.
Wow. Takes money to make money, huh?
God, yeah, and Brett and I are like, man, maybe we go look at this land development. We can get those free Ginsu knives, and we can sell the Ginsu knives and buy cigarettes. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Man, you guys went through some shit, man, huh?
Those were interesting times. I can't believe we were that stupid, but it was educational, and it was a good time. In retrospect, I think Brent would have been a lot happier if we'd gone to Dallas than Houston, because he liked Dallas better. I think he was just happier there.
So for the listeners without context, I mean, I know, but like you guys basically rolled the dice for like the...
Essentially, yeah. And chose Houston. We had to get out of Alamogordo, dude.
You picked the biggest cities in America and rolled the dice, pretty much.
Pretty much.
And landed on Houston.
And we had one thing in our favor there, and that was we thought we had some employment. But we were leaving Alamogordo one way or another. Sure. Because it was... At that point in time, man, we were going to be dead or in jail. Yep. If we didn't get out of town. Mm-hmm. And I fell in love with Houston, but it's a different kind of town. Houston's got an edge. You got to leave the house every morning. And I'm not saying you're going to do it, but you got to leave the house every morning in Houston with the attitude that I may have to stab a man in the face today just to get to my car alive.
Holy shit.
And it suited me fine. Dallas has a lot more laid back, more country, even though it's a big town. Mm-hmm. And it didn't have that really threatening air to it.
Threatening air.
And I know Brent really liked Dallas, and I think he'd have been happier if we'd moved to Dallas than moving to Houston. And I was happier than a pig in shit in Houston. I don't know if I'd want to live there now, but God, in my 20s and 30s, it was amazing. I was telling Kristen when we took her down there to look at Sam Houston, I said, the nice thing about a town like Houston is at 3 o'clock in the morning on Christmas Day, you can get it. She said, "It what?" And I said, "Whatever, because it's Houston. If you want fresh Thai food at 3 in the morning on Christmas Day, yes. You want a Santa Claus suit at 3 in the morning? Yes. You want gynecological surgery at 3 in the morning Christmas Day? Yes. Because it's Houston. It's 3.2 million people. It never sleeps. You know what I mean?" And she was blown away because she's an El Paso kid, but she was just like, oh my God, downtown's crazy. And I said, Kristen, this isn't downtown. This is the north side. Downtown is down there. It's, oh yeah. And she was just blown away. Country mouse goes to the city, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I loved it. I had so much fun. I wouldn't change a bit of that.
Were you in college down there?
Well, I went to junior college in Houston.
Okay.
I wanted to get the freshman, sophomore stuff out of the way. So I went to North Harris County Community College and got English 101 and Math 101 and all that out of the way where it was cheap.
Right.
And then when I got to the point where I was into my second semester of my sophomore year, I moved to Huntsville. I went to college full time. Sam Houston State Bearcats.
And you majored in history, right?
History. Minor in philosophy, yeah. Now, strangely, I did not wind up graduating from Sam Houston. My parents got into trouble. I had one more summer session left to go. One class, 3 credit hours left to go. My parents got into trouble and they said, look, will you come home and help us? And you can take that last 3 credit hours at New Mexico State. We'll pay for it. You can get your degree. And I said, okay, fine. So I get back here. Well, none of us looked into it. I couldn't because a class from state wouldn't transfer to Sam Houston. So here I am with one class to go on my degree and no way to finish it except to move back to Texas or take 2 full semesters at New Mexico State, 12 hours per.
Oh, hell no.
And so I sat tight for 4 years, I guess.
God
and I
damn.
finally wound up graduating from that, what's the name of the place? I think it's Morgan that they run through the base.
Mm-hmm.
Wound up graduating from there because I basically just went in and said, look, I've been to 5 different colleges. Here's all the credits I've got. Give me a degree. I don't even care what it's in. Just give me a damn degree. I'm never going to use it, but I want to have it.
After all the work you put in, fuck it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I paid for 75% of it out of my pocket. So, but I wouldn't have traded it for anything. I took so much crap from my other friends at the time that were fraternity brothers. Oh, you're runner friends. That's funny. Because there's about a dozen of those guys that 25 years later, I still talk to all the time.
Uh-huh.
And I don't talk to any of the people that gave me shit about my rent friends.
Right.
I haven't seen most of those people in years, you know. Christmas Day, I got a text from 20 of those guys.
Wow.
At least. I had lunch with 3 different guys last year. Over the course of, in 2021, I had lunch with 3 different guys that I've known 25 years. And it's amazing that I built whole new friendships at that point in my life, you know? Because normally, lifetime friends are something you start with pretty young.
Sure.
Like Brent and I.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was cool. It was a really cool time in my life. I wouldn't trade those years at Sam Houston for anything. And I had a very interesting opportunity. As Brent and I moved down there together, and then in March of 92, he moved home because his parents needed help with the restaurant. So it's just me down there. I'm already back in college trying to decide what I'm going to do. And so I said, screw it. I just moved to Huntsville. And I said, I'll commute to work, but I'll be here where the university is. And back then, not everybody had a PC at home, so I had to get to the computer lab and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just live here and commute to work. And I got an interesting opportunity to absolutely reinvent myself because nobody there knew me.
Refreshing, huh? Yeah, shit.
And it wasn't, and I don't mean anything by it, but sometimes Brent will say something, well, you know how Dan is. Well, that's an assumption. And none of those people had any of those assumptions to make.
None of them.
None of them. And so among those guys, I have a reputation as one of the most lighthearted, easygoing, fun dudes you've ever met, which is not a reputation I have around here. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. That's great.
But I wouldn't have missed that for anything. It was a good time. College was wonderful.
That's excellent, man.
And at my age, and my favorite college story involves a girl, but not what you would think. Meet this girl at a frat party. We're getting along well, so we go back to the house. And I open the door, and she goes, "You've got furniture." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, starving college student. Yeah, I do have furniture. And toilet paper, too, honey. Come on in."
Oh, man. You know, it's
Nothing
funny. It's funny you mentioned toilet paper, and my aunt will appreciate this because I think she's the one who told me. She's like, you expect girls to stick around at your party, but you have no fucking toilet paper or whatever. And she's like, they'll leave. I'm just like,
It's true.
I never thought of that. But yeah. It's like you don't have any toilet paper in your house. Like, you can have nothing but drunk asshole dudes over there.
Because we don't care. We'll just go out in the yard. Mark Zabrowski, a friend of mine, you've probably met Mark. He was here with his girlfriend the other day. And the plumbing had just gone out at my house because my renter's girlfriend had flushed unmentionables down the toilet. Mm-hmm. So I have a kitchen sink, but I have no toilet.
Sure.
My dad's toilet is working, but the house is a disaster area. So Mark's girlfriend, who is a very nice girl and very proper, and I said, Chevy, here's the problem. We're here at my nice, clean house, but you can't go to the bathroom here. If you have to go to the bathroom, I have to take you over to my dad's crack house, and you have to use the bathroom over there. And she's like, "You're serious?" And Mark goes, Oh, yeah. She's like, I think I can hold it. And I'm like, "I'm so sorry, ma'am. It happened this morning. I had not planned on this." Yeah. And it's the day after Christmas. The plumbers are not coming today.
No. Shit happens, man. We're having plumbing issues right now too. I mean, it's not to the point where anything it is major, but it won't. The line is so long that it won't back up into the house. So there's several cleanouts between us and to the. We're actually going to get a septic installed because it's so far to the city and it's on the other side of the street. And there's all this room for error. It's so long that it has to have a fall.
Yeah, or it won't run.
Yeah. And so by the time you get to the fence, it's like 8 feet deep over there. And then you have to go through the road, which they're always cutting up that road.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we found out we were never even hooked up. It's just...
The pipe just goes out into nowhere?
It just goes to nowhere, somewhere at the road over there. And you're like, huh.
For how many years? you
Yeah.
know?
You're like, there could be some giant sinkhole over there. We don't fucking know.
Full of poo.
Yeah. I mean, it's way far away from our building.
But still, that's crazy.
it's
Never got
crazy.
hooked up.
Yeah.
How old is this building?
60s.
So for 50 years, the poo's just been flowing out the pipe to nowhere.
No, I'm sure it hasn't been that long, but somewhere along the way.
Wow.
But it's one of those things that never got established.
Well, you know, when people weren't living here, when it was a business, and it's just folks flushing the toilet making coffee, they may have never generated enough water to notice it.
Mm-hmm.
But you guys with showers and laundry and stuff, now it's like,
Yeah, what the
that's
hell?
crazy,
Yeah.
Pat.
I forget how we did. We were going to get some facilities installed in the building next door. And the plumber's like, oh, hey, there's a little bit of standing water in here. We should check what's going on. And then we started digging and then found out, one thing leads to another. And they're like, yeah, shit's kind of fucked up. And then we're looking at long-term solutions, and we're like, we don't want 400 feet of line. That's 400 feet of shit can go wrong.
Mm-hmm. And if something goes wrong, you've got to dig up 400 feet to find it.
Yeah, it's not very future-proof,
No.
So we're looking at a septic install. And
Can you do that in the city limits?
if you're beyond, if you're like from where the service connects to your like buildings or whatever, it has to be over 150 feet.
Oh, you got that.
And
beat,
we're
yeah.
like 400 feet or more or something. It's
3 times.
It's a lot, yeah. So
God, that's crazy, Pat.
it is insane.
What a whiskey.
Yeah. So which one do you want to try next?
I'm thinking we'll probably try that other American. I'm kind of working in what I consider the worst tasting to the best. So we'll try that other American bourbon, which is a better one. It's what's the guy's Basil Hayden. Been in business since the late 1700s, like 1790 something. But again, it's a Kentucky. It's a bourbon. It's not my fave, but it's better. You'll notice it's closer to the color of that Canadian than, say, the Woodford Double Reserve.
Gotcha.
But again, it's got a cork. And this is, I think this bottle's about $30 or so. So it's a step up from the Woodford, but not up to high dollar.
Right. Yeah. That's doable. A good whiskey, $30. Yeah, that's doable.
And somewhere I know there's, Miss Manners is cringing that I'm using these cordial glasses for whiskey, but life goes on. I don't have any tulip-shaped glasses. It isn't what I do.
No. And of course, you've got the actual whiskey glass here, but we're not using that because we don't want to get too.
Yeah, I mean, if I was pouring us a finger times 6 shots, we'd be stupid drunk.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if I can do. Can I drink 6 shots of whiskey? Yes. Do I wish to do that tonight? Not so much.
Not so much.
Let's throw ya.
Yeah, man. Cheers.
There's that corn. Smoother than the Woodford, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But you can definitely taste that corn. It's hot.
It is hot. It's a good way of describing it.
You ever had, honest to God, moonshine?
I've had moonshine. I just don't know if it was honest to God moonshine.
Like the store-bought stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Okay.
fine. It's got that real kind of fire-breathing drag into it. That's that corn. Hot corn liquor. Not bad. Not bad. That's better, I think. Slane is the next one we're going to try. It's the Irish whiskey. It's my guilty pleasure. It's only about $30 a bottle. It's not an expensive whiskey, but God, for what it is, I think it's an amazing whiskey. And it's so much. Even Williams, who doesn't like anything that's made anywhere but America, was like, it's pretty good whiskey. Oh, Mike said something nice about Ireland. Holy crap.
Oh, that's awesome. Irish whiskey tends to be pretty damn smooth, in my opinion.
I agree.
From my experience, I'm like, damn.
I agree. There's a whole set of rules for, like, bourbon has to be made in the United States of America. So you can make it in Hawaii or Alaska, but you can't make it in Canada, which is dumber than hell. Tennessee whiskey has to be made within Tennessee, and it has to be 51% corn. There's all these stupid things, and about the only one of them I'll give any credit to is the Scotch. Because the Scots have been doing whiskey their way for hundreds and hundreds of years. And I would hate for Taco Bell and Pepsi to jack up that
recipe and that style.
Yeah.
There's something about the H too, right? There's 2 different spellings.
Sure. In terms of whiskey, you mean?
Whiskey, yeah.
And they're both the same. It's just like Americans spell gray and color differently than the English do.
Right.
So whiskey with just a Y and whiskey with EY, they're all the same thing. And rye whiskey, corn whiskey, whiskey is whiskey.
Oh, it's the Y. EY or Y?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's what I meant, not the H. I was thinking one of them was like a whiskey. Whiskey.
Yeah,
But,
it's Y or EY.
Y or EY, yeah. I thought there was something to do with that, but I don't know.
And to my knowledge, and I could be wrong, and if there's someone out there who knows better, hey, let me know. I wanted to sample a bunch of different liquors, and just because I wanted to. I think that, God, this is going to sound so elitist. I think there are certain things that a man ought to know in life. He ought to know how to tie a tie. He ought to be able to judge good stereo equipment, and he ought to be able to know his liquor. And if your knowledge of liquor is Jack Daniels in a plastic cup, you know shit about liquor. Now, do I claim that I'm going to know the history of all this? Mr. Slane in the 1731. No, I'm not. But I do want to know good liquor. I've been through rum, tequila, vodka, and whiskey. I'm going to do some exotics next. And then I think I'm going to try wines. I'm going to move off into wines. And I'm not really looking forward to that one. I like a good white wine. I love a good red wine, but I can't take the sulfides. And if I have one glass, I might as well have a case because I'm going to be just as hungover.
Now, there are wine that doesn't have sulfites, right?
That is my understanding.
Okay.
But if I'm going to go and try really good wines, that's like having gluten-free bread. I don't want to screw with it. If I'm going to have a Mouton Lafite that for $110 a bottle, I don't want to get some punk-ass California gluten-free, you know?
The non-sulfite. Yeah. Who knows? Who knows? That definitely has something to do with the way it makes you feel, though.
Oh, sure.
Especially for certain people. Like, it might not affect some people, but it totally affects others.
My dad, sulfites didn't bother him. They bother me terribly. And as I get closer to that phase, when I get ready to start drinking wine, I'll start doing some research, and I'll know more about it.
Sure.
But, yeah, I think there's a few things you ought to know as a gentleman, and one of them is your liquor.
Fair enough. Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I'm an old guy. What do you want me to say?
Yeah.
Some guy who's 26 is like, screw you. But I don't know.
You got to know your video games, man.
Exactly. Hey, I tell you what.
You want to be somebody in life? Know your fucking video games, okay?
I just, for the 4th year in a row, just got an invitation to the World Championships. So I do play video games. I'm a World of Tanks player.
Right.
And I'm fucking crazy good at it. So you can be old and play video games and still know your whiskey. So
yeah, that's right. That's totally right. Yeah, because I was noticing this one is whiskey, whiskey, like at the end with the EY.
Yep.
And that one's a Y. Whiskey with just a Y.
Yep. Scots.
That's the good shit, though, huh?
Yeah, that's a single malt.
All right. Yeah.
That's my brother had a good rule of thumb. If you're looking for good whiskey and you don't know anything about it, stick with the Glens. Glenlivet, Glenfiddich, Glenmorangie. If you stick with the Glens, you're going to wind up with a good whiskey, even if you don't know anything about it. So that's a nice rule of thumb.
Nice.
But all of your Glens are high dollar.
Right.
So it's not like buying Jack Daniels for $13 a bottle, you know?
No.
Getting blind drunk for the weekend.
Knee walking drunk.
Like I say, I think it was... I was always fine when I was with my friends. When I was a hard liquor man in my 20s, if I was with my friends, I was fine. Because we're having a good time. I don't want to ruin the good time. If I was out alone, I was going to get belligerent drunk and someone was getting their ass kicked. And that's just who I was at that point in my life. And now I finally said, I'm not that guy anymore. I can probably do this without punching out my neighbor. And I've really enjoyed kind of getting back into sampling good liquor and finding out what's good about it.
Absolutely.
There's a time in my life that I would just drop Red Dog in whatever cheap plastic vodka, didn't worry about it.
Yep.
And I think that's probably why I hit people, because I didn't like their hair.
Yeah, man. Especially when you're young too. Like you haven't done enough, or whatever your party phase is. And hopefully most people, they'll just go through their party phase,
right?
Hardcore drinking, get it out of your system, and then dial it back, and then just moderation. But I think a lot of us are just you're young and hungry, and for us it was just like just part of underage drinking, we used to just, it was like anything we could do to get our hands on some alcohol. I mean,
Sure.
you know, when you're 18, 19, 20, you're an adult, but you can't drink yet.
Right.
You know, you're like, what the fuck? Like, I'm
I
an
go to
adult,
war.
but I can't drink yet. And you just, anything you can to get your hands on some cheap 40s or something, you know?
Yeah.
But now it's like, yeah, hey man, do you want a 40? And I'm like, I mean, if the night is young and I'm down for drinking a little beer, like I'm not saying I'm too good for a 40, but I'm hardly ever going to the store these days and buying 40s.
Buying 40s, yeah.
Now it's just nostalgia. It's like, now that I'm talking about it, I'm going to have to get some 40s. That way next time I have a friend over and be like, hey man, you want a beer? Instead of handing him like a beer, you just hand him a 40. Like,
Oh, dude.
it's one of those nights. Okay. It'd just be funny.
We had a drinking game we played against all the rules in college called Beeratory Confinement.
Oh,
And you would lock 4 people in a room, nail a sheet of plywood on the door, and the 4 of you had to float a keg. And then whoever could still stand would hurl the keg through the plywood out, and then you could leave. And you're like, God, what made that sound like a good idea? You'd be crippled for 2 days, you know? Even then I couldn't.
That is intense. Yeah, funny games. I've heard of another one called Edward 40 Hands.
Oh, tape the 40s in.
Yeah. 2 40s. It's like you got to get rid of one just so you can do anything with your hands.
It's all fun and games till
then
one
you're
of your
stuck with the other
smart-ass
one.
friends says he won't untape your hand when it's time to pee. Then the fun and games is over and you start smashing 40s on people's heads. And yeah.
Yeah, that's no fun. I think even just one would be fine. Like you're just like, you have to tape this drink to your hand till you get rid of it. That's fun.
Yeah.
But not both.
Yeah.
It's like it's too
80
much.
ounces of beer before I can pee? You got to be kidding me, man. Come on.
Yeah. Just drinking to get drunk. You know, it's not something I do much.
Not anymore. No. Brent and I were laughing about that at Halloween, that stupid night of vodka. We bought I don't remember what it was. It was in a plastic bottle and it was like $7. And we did a shot every 5 minutes till one of us puked. And it's funny to listen to because Brent tells a story better than I do. And people go, well, who won? And Brent goes, nobody.
Nobody won. Man, so to switch gears, I know we were talking about backpacking a little bit. And we were talking about gear and cheap gear and shitty gear. I know it's something you talk about a lot, probably, you know, because you have your channel and stuff, right? But is there like 1 or 2 pieces of gear, aside from a lighter and a knife and the basic shit, but like 1 or 2 pieces of gear that's like, man, if you were going to recommend it to...
If you're going to spend some money, the most important thing you can possibly have is a good sleeping bag. If I could only have 1 piece of gear other than my lighter and a knife, it'd be a good sleeping bag. Spend the money. Mine was on sale, and I think I paid $320 for it.
Wow, okay.
But I've had that sleeping bag almost 20 years. I have slept in it in a night that we woke up. It was 16 degrees outside and snowing sideways. And I slept in it in my underwear and had no idea. But I would say if you're only going to get a couple of good things, get a good-ass sleeping bag and get a good-ass pair of boots or shoes. If you'd rather hike in shoes instead of boots, fine. But footwear and a place to sleep, that's what I'd give you the most of. You can make a tent out of a dry cleaning bag. You're not going to war or surviving the Alaskan wilderness, so you don't necessarily need a $400 knife, but you need to be able to sleep well and you need to be able to move.
Right. Man, that's good advice.
I love that bag of mine. Like I said, I stepped up and paid for it, but you can zip yourself up in that bag and lay on the ground and people can spray you down with a water hose and none of it's coming in. When Brent and I went camping in Hermosa that night, got caught in that rainstorm, I caught my tent on something and I got a leak and I woke up in about 1.5 inches of water in my tent. But my sleeping bag didn't let any of it through. So I'm bone dry in my bag in a situation which otherwise you'd be freezing your butt off and maybe becomes life-threatening because we wound up not being able to get out. So yeah, that's one of those things that they say an army moves on its stomach. Well, yeah, but you're backpacking. You're not going to die in 3 or 4 days. You need to be able to sleep well or you won't be able to move, and you need good footwear so you can move. Those are my 2 biggies. And after that, I'd say a good knife. Whether it's a folder or a fixed blade, I recommend a fixed blade, but a good folder. But yeah, once again, we as a modern people have gotten really out of touch. Think about if you had to get out of your car and walk from Las Cruces to Alamogordo. What would you need with you along the way? most people don't even know what they'd need because they've never had to think about that kind of thing. Well, I mean, I'll just take this bottle of water. Yes, because that 8 ounces of water is going to do great on a 76-mile walk in the desert. You bet. We'll find you about, I don't know, bottom of the Oregon Mountains dead.
Oh, man.
You know,
You have to be covering some ground, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And
I mean, now, if you're an ultra marathoner, one of those guys that can cover 125 miles in 24 hours, fine. Otherwise, you're going to die out there. We've gotten really pampered. And if you live in some place like Boston or Miami, you can afford to be because it's 75 miles in any direction to the woods. Here, we walk out the door, we're in the damn desert.
Mm-hmm.
And you can die right outside the gate. There's rattlesnakes and pits and cactus and things that want you to eat you.
And the temperature fluctuation.
Yeah.
Warm during the day, cold as shit at night. It's just like, man, it's pretty harsh conditions.
Sure, this is the desert. It kills people. And if you get up at 9,000, 10,000 feet where a lot of your backpacking takes place, you can have snow in August, July.
Yep.
And wake up a foot deep in snow. And if you're out there in shorts and tedless, it's going to be the end of your huck ass, you know?
Yeah, you're not kidding, man.
We, Mike and I knew it was going to be rough, that 16-degree night. We knew it was going to be fairly cold, but we did not expect that. And we go to bed inside this little old line cabin. And it's good. And wake up in the morning, and I wake up to Mike cursing like a sailor. He'd gotten up to go to the bathroom. As soon as he took off his, because he was in his big Air Force survival suit, and as soon as he dropped that survival suit, he started cursing from the cold, screaming, and then he didn't take any toilet paper, so he wipes his butt with one sock. So now
He loses a sock.
So now he's losing a sock, he's got a cold foot, and he's freezing, and he's cursing in Spanish and English, and hops back over and gets in the sleep bag. Blah, 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 blah. How cold is it? And I looked at my thermometer, and I said, well, Mike, you'll be pleased to know it is 16 degrees. He's like, and it was August.
You were not expecting that.
No, not that. We were expecting, I mean, there was a storm, but we're not expecting like life-threatening cold in August.
No. Damn.
But yeah, that sleeping bag made all the difference for me. And the other nice thing about stepping into really expensive equipment when it comes to backpacking is you get better quality, but you also get better durability. And that sleeping bag is good down to 15 degrees. And like I said, I slept at 16 in my underwear, and it compresses to the size of a loaf of bread and weighs less than 2 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
You get what you pay for in certain things in life. In fact, I talk about that in my video on sleeping bags. That's one of those things where you do get what you pay for.
Yeah. And so you do have a YouTube channel with some of this advice, obviously.
I do. I've got a YouTube channel that's
Let's shout it out.
called Dan King Jr. It's so original. I started it because I got so mad. I was watching a video one night, Pat, and I'm sure this guy had the very best of intentions. I'm sure he was trying to do the right thing. But I have got boots that are 10 years older than this guy was, and he's obviously not spent enough time in really bad conditions. And I thought, man, you've got 400,000 subscribers, and they listen to you. And if someone is listening to what you just said, they're going to die in the woods. And I got mad. And so I started that YouTube channel because I was professionally offended. And then it kind of took a back seat when Dad got sick and I hadn't done anything on it for a while. But now I'm back onto it. But yeah, it's Dan King Jr. And I talk about things you might need, situations you might find yourselves in, and little pieces of knowledge you might want to have. I think a lot of this crap, and again, the Western world, well, we need to make a fire. Can you make a double counterweighted pump boat? Mm-hmm. Why? They make something called a bick. It's just not 1256. You don't have to knock stone on a horse hoof. Spare me. Go down the store, buy a 69-cent bick, and call it a good day.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Williams, I gave him a lighter and a pocket knife for Christmas. I was like, Mike, we live in the West. If you need to start a fire, can you do it with a rock and flint? Well, I don't think so. Then carry a fucking cigarette lighter. You know,
It's always worth it. Yeah. I mean, why not?
Yeah. A knife and a lighter, you've got a tool and a way to make fire that'll get you on almost anything. Primal man evolved into who we are now with a knife and a way to make fire. You know what I mean? So
That's everything. Fundamentals.
yeah. It amazes me.
Fundamentals, man.
And again, this is part of modern society. I was reading a study that the U.S. Army did on new recruits at boot camp. And they took them out to the firing range and said, okay, that thing right there, how far away is that? Well, they knew, because it's the firing range, that it was 200 yards away. They got answers between 50 yards and 4 miles.
Wow.
Because nobody walks anymore. And nobody knows how far 200 yards is. I walk from my house to Walgreens all the time. And it's amazing how often people stop me and say, "Hey, man, you need a ride?" No, man, I can see the sign from my front yard. No, I do not need a ride.
Like, I appreciate the offer, but no, man, I'll actually probably get to my house quicker walking. And I'll enjoy it more.
And this couldn't be why you're 50 pounds overweight. I'm just saying, you know?
Yeah, I remember even back in the day skating around town and stuff, and sometimes people would offer me a ride before I drove, you know, when I was a kid. And like there's a few times, actually there was times even after I had a car where I was just like on foot by choice. Mm-hmm. But people ask you, "Hey man, do you need a ride?" And you're like, "Nah, man, I'm actually like I recreationally left my car at the house." So like I have a car, I just chose to skate tonight, you know.
Yep.
And I don't know. It's like okay to be out there in the world, like sometimes on foot. Like it's okay.
There's a doctor I follow on YouTube, and I don't buy into all of his stuff, but it's called Sean Baker, and a lot of his stuff on carno diet I really appreciate. But he was showing a chart the other day posted by the American Medical Association of the obesity level among adults from 1940 to now. Over 50% of American adults are considered obese. We live in the most technologically advanced society that the world has ever known. Mm-hmm. Everything is at your fingertips. Why are we fat pigs?
Good question.
Our lifespan is starting to go down. Americans are getting shorter again, not taller.
Wow.
It couldn't have anything to do with the fact that we're lazy pigs who put chemically laden stew into our face.
Right.
I had a lady the other day at the grocery store. I walked outside the store and lit up a cigarette. And she proceeds to give me the red ass about having a cigarette and what it's doing to my health. And I look in her cart and I'm like, there is not one natural food item anywhere in that entire cart. It is toxic waste in a wrapper. And you think I'm the unhealthy one? Good Jesus, honey, you got 2 gallons of Diet Coke. You're going to die from this stuff. 2 big old cans of that Ready Whip spray whipped cream. There's nothing. It's like petroleum product, honey.
Yeah, people will be like, "Oh, you're putting chemicals into your body and blah, blah, blah." And you're like, "Yeah, man, like we're all putting chemicals into our body. Everything that you consume, you know, even water and air. And I mean, everything's chemical.
Sure.
Everything's a chemical. Some chemicals are good, you know, but some are bad. But yeah, it's like, it's a majority and an individual thing. And you're like, you know, a cigarette once every here and there, or some booze or something, or like, you know, eating gobs of sugar and fast food. And
sure.
I mean, I don't know which one's better for everyone's different, you know. But,
and I want to scream at this woman, honey, I smoke a pack a day and I can run a 6-minute mile and bench press you. You can't run across the parking lot without having a mild stroke. So let's talk about health here, shall we? You're 60 pounds overweight. You got more chins than a Chinese phone book, baby. Don't talk to me about being overweight.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And that's the other thing, America, we've taught ourselves, is to be really, really arrogant about things that we don't know. To just get raw and way up in someone's face about things you don't know anything about.
Yes. We all need to refrain from this.
And
yes.
I'm guilty of periodically.
Yes. I mean, that's what I was thinking too. I was like, yeah. I try not to do that too much anymore. Most of the time, I'm like, I don't know what the hell's going on. Like, to tell you the truth, like to really tell you, I don't really know what's going on these days. But it's hard to pin down, you know.
Just pretend you're an absolute 60 IQ moron, and you're better off than almost anybody. Mm-hmm. I don't know, Pat. It's such a mess. Watching, and here I feel like my grandfather. In my day, I am old enough now to have watched multiple generations of America. And I'm a people watcher. That's one of the reasons I hate people, because I'm a very keen people observer.
Yep.
I am watching humanity slide downhill. We are devolving. And I don't just mean America. We, as the human race, are devolving. Let's look at things like emoticons in texting. Mm-hmm. Once upon a time, we had pictographs. And everything was done with pictures of buffaloes and guys with spears. And then we developed written language with whole words. And now we've gone back to pictures of buffaloes and shit. This is not a positive development. You know what I mean?
That is one way of looking at it. Yeah, that's
We're going to need a Rosetta Stone to develop. What did this emoticon mean? Why do we have a smiling poo emoticon? This is what's a smiling turd. This is what society has brought us.
We're becoming way, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We're way at the top, you know. And so
Yeah.
we're way more existential, spiritual. Who am I? What is my purpose? Or I don't feel good today. Something's wrong with me. Or whatever it is, And everyone's got this different storm of shit. Like everyone's literally in their own universe in a way. Like there's the collective universe that we all live in, but like, when someone wakes up, they're in their universe, like all day, every day. And it's just like, you never know like what's going on, but man.
Brent's, his comment about the way we lived in Houston, building our character later. I had a conversation with a lady at the golf course. She found out I was a college graduate and owned my own business. She said, "What are you doing working at a golf course? Don't you have any pride?" And I said, "Yeah, I've got pride that I can pay my bills without having to suck a government dick to get a welfare check. Yeah, I got plenty of pride."
Sure.
And we kind of got into where all this headed. And I said, "Look, lady, have you ever been hungry?" And she said, "Well, of course I've been hungry." And I said, No. I mean, didn't eat yesterday, haven't eaten today, not looking good for tomorrow, that kind of hungry. She said, "Well, no." And I said, "Then you don't know shit about suffering." And I think America could use, I would hate to see it long term because I love my country, but America could use a major league case of temporary suffering to understand how good we have it every other day. Everybody said, "Well, I was so pissed because I couldn't park right next to the door." Well, from the size of your ass, honey, you probably don't need to park right next to the door quite so often.
Yeah.
Put down the Twinkies and the Diet Coke and do something with yourself, or you're going to have a stroke at 43 and be a burden on the system the rest of your life.
Yeah, we're very detached from the physical lately. Mm-hmm. And that's what I was saying with that pyramid. Like, we're way at the top. Like, we're living, like, all in this headspace. And so arguably we're evolving in some other way, whether it's good or bad, we're evolving in some direction.
In some direction.
But it's definitely like plummeting as far as like attachment to the physical world, being capable and sustainable. And like, we're just like, I don't know, man, it's going down in a lot of ways.
You look at, and here's a wonderful example, because I don't think of myself as a tough guy. I'm just a dude. In my generation, I was not a tough guy. I don't do the Baton Death March anymore because it's gotten so expensive. But when I used to do that, I'd close down the bar the night before, stay out till 2:30 in the morning, show up at the starting line at 5:45, smoking a cigarette, and off we go. And I'd be listening to heavy metal and smoking cigarettes and walking. And by the time I got to 8 or 9 miles, there'd be 20-year-old active duty Army infantry laying by the road getting an IV. What's the explanation for that? It's not that I'm not a John Wayne badass, so you must be a pussy. That's the only other explanation here.
Yeah.
And
I'm not great because I'm great. I'm just great because you're like mediocre as fuck.
Exactly. By comparison, I am Conan. And that's sad because I am not Conan. I am more like Barney Rubble. And something's happened to us, man. It makes me want to drink whiskey, though. Let's have another one, shall we?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right, we're going to go to Irish. We'll go international. Now, this is Slane. Like I said, it's not an expensive whiskey, but I think Irish whiskey is really smooth, and this is my guilty pleasure. If I could only have one decent whiskey in the rest of my life, this would be it. If it was drink shit or this, I'm so all over this Slane.
Nice.
And we'll save that single malt for the end because, God, that is so... It's liquid sex, dude. It really is.
Oh, man.
The Scottish understand golf, they understand haggis, and they understand whiskey. And I'm not sure they know another damn thing about anything else, but... You ever had haggis?
No.
If you don't know what's in it and you just eat it, it's wonderful. If you know what's in it, you probably won't want to eat it.
Right.
But God, it is so good. Now, you'll have a friggin' stroke from all the butter, but it is amazing.
I'm like, I want to ask you what's in it, but at the same time, I almost don't want to know that, but I can just try it. And then...
Traditional haggis is a sheep's stomach filled with meat and rice and barley. And they use the sheep stomach as a cooking pot over the fire. Because, interesting thing about animal skins, if you hang an animal skin over the fire and it's filled with a liquid, it will not burn below where the level of the liquid is, even on the outside. It's kind of a cool little camping feature for you. So they use the stomach as a boiling pot, and then they eat the whole thing. So the only thing that's really gross is eating the entire stomach part. It's not like black pudding where you're eating animal blood, which black pudding. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's try some Slane, sir.
Slane it is.
Oh, see, not nearly as hot as that bourbon.
You're right.
That's a decent whiskey right there.
It's pretty good.
God damn it.
Irish whiskey.
Liquor is proof that God loves us and wants us to be happy.
That's awesome, man.
Go ahead. No.
I was going to mention this glass. This is the one of the last remaining relics of the bank.
The family bank, yeah. If you're from Alamogordo, where Wells Fargo is now, there's a placard out front that describes the history. But my great-great-grandfather, R.D. Champion, founded a bank in Tularosa before World War I, Otero State Bank. And it was the only bank in southern New Mexico to survive the Depression. Every other one that went out. After Black Friday in New York, Monday morning, R.D. comes into work at the bank, and there's a bunch of people standing out front. And R.D. said, well, morning, what's going on? And they said, well, we're here to get our money. And he said, why? So we heard about Black Friday and the stock market crashed, and we want our money. And R.D. said, okay, come on inside, I'll get you your money. Said, well, but wait, stock market crashed. And he said, yeah, but your money wasn't in the stock market because I'm not an idiot. Your money's inside. Some of it got loaned out to you to buy pigs, and some of it got loaned out to you to buy corn, but no, we're fine, man. Come on inside, I'll get you your money. And everybody went, oh, okay. And that was the Depression in Otero County, and they went home. Because RD didn't lose anything. Their money was right where it was supposed to be.
Wow.
So after the Depression, the New Mexico Banking Commission came to RD and said, would you be willing to open a bank in Alamogordo? Because Alamogordo was really growing. And he said, I'm not closing the Tularosa Bank. That's my home. They said, well, okay, if we change the banking laws in New Mexico to allow branch banking, he said, oh, yeah, in that case, I'd do it. So they changed the banking laws so RD would open a bank in Tularosa. And those two banks wound up buying other little failing banks around until we got to the point that we had, I believe it was 56 banks in New Mexico. 56 individual banks, all under our corporate umbrella. Now, not all of them were Security Bank and Trust, but the overall corporation was Bank Securities Incorporated, that's the Bank Securities Incorporated logo. Security Bank and Trust. And that was the bank that we owned until 1980, when the family made a very, very serious error, got caught by the SEC, and we were forced to sell the bank at fire sale prices.
Right.
Right before I got old enough to appreciate the fact that we were rich and the governor was a guest at our house and stuff. Yeah.
Wow.
And part of it was a divorce, and part of it was a gambling problem. And to say that the three people involved in that have never been forgiven by the family is an understatement. In fact, Rick did not speak to his own mother for almost 30 years.
Wow.
Because her divorce started the landslide that crushed the company.
That's insane. Yeah, I mean, it's heavy.
She wanted out, and the family came to her and said, look, Val, we get it, but you know how this works. You know how everything's tied in, and we'll get you every dime you want, no sweat. But it's going to take a little bit of time. And she said, no, I want my money right now. And that got the SEC involved, and yeah.
The rest is history.
And the only thing that's left of the original family land is my cousin Rick owns, I think it's 10 acres of the original family property in Thule, of the 10 sections that we once owned.
Wow.
The huge pot farm that they're putting outside of Thule out there, 400 some odd acres, that's my great-grandfather RD's old land. And that well that's watering all that weed, my grandmother witched that well. And RD was a strict puritanical Methodist, the only one of his brothers that wasn't a Methodist minister. And if he knew they were growing the demon weed out there, he would just shit himself, dude. He didn't dance. He didn't drink. My dad never saw him smile.
Wow. He was just so emotionally reserved, huh?
Well, I mean, there's the old joke. Why don't Methodists have sex standing up? Because someone might think they're dancing. But that's old school Methodist. I mean, it's not. Yeah. They're different.
Yeah, you're very connected to the area.
Oh yeah.
You know, yeah. like Gerald Champion. Is that what you just said?
My great uncle. Yeah.
Okay, and obviously the hospital,
hospital,
Regional Medical Center or whatever. And
then we got here 23 years before New Mexico became a state. At one point, Otero County and Lincoln County were all one county, and we were the biggest county in America at the time, even before we were state, because nobody knew who Miguel Otero was yet. He was just some 12-year-old punk from northern New Mexico. And Arizona and New Mexico were all one big territory when we got here. Interestingly, there is more and more evidence that indicates that RD probably came here on the run from the law. That it's very likely he was involved in a stagecoach robbery in which a man was killed. And RD came here on the run from the law. He always said it was because he had asthma and he needed to get out to the desert. But he worked his ass off on a farm every day in the dust, and that's not something a guy with asthma does. And he was a banker that carried a concealed pistol every day that not even his kids knew about till he died. He also had a business partner here. Before the bank, he had a dry goods store, Champion Dry Goods, Tumbler Dry Goods. And he had a partner named Mr. Hanna. And he'd been trying to buy Mr. Hanna out. Mr. Hanna said, nah, the business is growing. I don't really want to sell. I want to be a partner. Well, out of nowhere, Mr. Hanna decided to sell and left town in the middle of the night. No one ever saw him again. Very strange how that worked out. I'm not saying anything, but,
Man. And then, like, your dad was mayor of Alamogordo for a short time, right?
Yeah. Dad was mayor 4 years, and he was on the city commission 8 years. And my grandfather was mayor of Tularosa for 12 years.
Wow.
My dad said I should run for mayor of Cloudcroft because then a king's been the mayor of every town in the area, every incorporated community. I don't know if I know enough people up there to win a mayor's election anymore.
Man.
And the current mayor is an old friend of mine from high school. Brent, at Halloween this year, goes, I got to go talk to the mayor. I'm like, Bill? He goes, you know him? I'm like, yeah, hell, he's 4 years younger than I am. He went to high school with my little brother. Yeah, I know Bill. Let's go see Bill.
Wow.
There's a country song, and it's not a great song, but it's got a great theme. And it's talking about, I'm trying to remember the lyrics. Basically saying that back home where I'm from, I've got some famous-ass friends. And you may not know them here in New York City, but they're bigger than anybody where I'm from. As the gist of a song. And it's kind of true when you're from a small town. I was going up the hill to Cloudcroft one day when I was working at the hardware store. And a guy with Texas plates, tinted glass, lowrider pickup truck, pulls a double yellow on me and then cuts me off. And we're having all this issue. And we're going through Bailey, and he gives me the bird like it was my fault. I'm like, so I wave him the bird. He waves a pistol out the window. Well, this is me. So I wave my pistol out the window. He gets in, slows way down and gets in behind me, and I'm like, here we go. So I drove right into town and pulled in the hardware store and stopped and got out, pistol behind my back. And he gets out and starts screaming at me, partly in Spanish, not knowing that I'm the gringo that speaks some Spanish. So we're having a conversation. I said, look, Slick, time to move on because this is my fucking town. And about that time, Kevin Summers pulls up, chief of police, gets out of the car, looks at him, looks at me, and goes, everything all right, Danny? And you can see the look on the guy's face like, shit, this is his town.
It's like some straight out of a movie shit. It's like totally out of an old Western type shit. Like, it's the same archetype. It's the same thing happening. Yeah.
I mean, I've known Kevin 45 years, he was 5 years behind me in high school. And there is something to be said for that in a small town. And I'll tell you what, Pat, that's the moment I realized it was time for me to move on from this area. It wasn't that I had any great desire to move. On the 4th of July, I walked the length of Cloudcroft and did not see one damn person that's from Cloudcroft. And when that's your hometown, 130 years in this area, and you walk the length of town, don't see one person you know, it's not your town anymore.
Yep.
And if I'm going to live in an area, if I'm going to live in a town full of strangers, I want to live in a town I like better.
And another town full of strangers, where at least you like the town itself.
Exactly. If I'm going to be with a bunch of strangers, I might as well be somewhere I like to live. Somewhere there's good fishing and I can have my boat.
Yeah, so you got a boat a while back, and it's parked right now, right? But you're going to get back to it?
It's actually for sale right now.
Okay.
I've kind of changed my plan because of COVID. International cruising is a huge pain in the butt right now. If you want to go do the Caribbean, 6 different countries, there's 6 different COVID protocols to get down through the Caribbean, including 2 places where you've got to sit on your boat for 4 days in quarantine, whether you've had a vaccine or not. Yeah, good luck with that. So I don't have any point in owning a sailboat right now since I can't take off for Australia or take off for New Zealand. I can't do it. And living on a sailboat is a pain in the ass because they're just not great liveaboards. So I've got it for sale. Once I get it sold, I'm going to go and shop for a very specific type of powerboat that I'll use until if they ever open sailing again. Yeah, it's I've got a 42-foot Robinson Custom sailboat. It's a nice boat. I've done a lot of work to it.
Damn.
But I'm going to sell it and buy what I want a 48-foot main ship because it has one specific feature. Inside the boat is just a boat. There's 2 bedrooms, the bathroom, kitchen, all the same stuff. But up top, there's where you'll drive the boat, the flybridge. You take 3 steps down, and there's a hard fiberglass roof, and you've got 14 by 19 feet under roof with a mini bar and a mini kitchen. Now, to me, that's the whole point of having a boat, is being outside. That's boat life, not being in your living room. So here you've got this 14 by 18 feet outside. Hang some mosquito nets, and man, now you're outside doing what you came here to do every day.
Brilliant. Like on the river or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about really big boats is, they're brutally expensive when they're new. Ridiculously expensive when they're new. My sailboat, if you went out and bought it brand new right now, probably cost you $700,000. But when they hit about 15 years old, rich people don't want them anymore because they're not new and shiny, and they don't impress their rich friends. Well, a boat that big, unless you're going to live on it, it's useless because you can't trailer it anywhere. So boats that big wind up sitting. There's thousands and thousands of them for sale all over America, and you have trouble getting rid of them. And so I bought my boat for less than it would have cost me to buy the diesel engine that's in it. And I put about another $10,000 into it. New sails. I redid all the woodwork. I redid all the upholstery. Repainted it. It was all ready for me to go cruising. And then COVID.
And then COVID.
But I was the kind of thing, I'd run some numbers. And once I leave Miami, the first place I wanted to go was Greece.
International travel, like for real.
I mean, I wanted to do the Bahamas for about a week just to sort the boat out, make sure I didn't have leaks or whatever. But I was going to leave for Greece from the Caribbean straight to Greece. Because that's my lifetime dream, is to take a sailboat to Greece.
That's fucking gnarly. I mean, like you think about it and you're like, yeah, he's just gonna go over to, he's gonna go over there. But like it's not like you're flying over there. Like, I mean, especially if you're taking yourself there across the ocean
in a sailboat.
Like, that's some heavy ass, like, I got, I'm holding my life in my hands right now. Like, I mean, arguably you're always doing that
every day. Yeah.
But I mean, like, I'm about to cross the ocean.
The most exciting thing for me was,
it's fucking gnarly.
I was going to buy a satellite phone in case I had an emergency. But basically, once you get about 15 miles from the island, until you get about 15 miles from Greece, there's going to be no phone. No one's going to call me. No one's going to talk to me. It will be 26 days of absolute solitude. And I cannot think of anything that would please me more at this point in my life than no one can fuck with my life for 26 days. No matter what. I don't care who died, what's on fire. I can't fix it from out here, If I show up in Greece and find out that it's World War III, well, I guess we're here. But for 26 days, there's peace.
Wow. Yeah, that's intense.
Now, I started building a boat. You may find this amusing. After I was on that sailboat for a while, I said, you know what? This is not really big enough for me to want to live aboard. Because, it's 42 feet long, and it's 17 feet wide in the middle, but it tapers to only a few feet at each end. Mm-hmm. And so really, it's only about 650 square feet.
Right.
Not much space. And so I started looking at plans out there, and I started acquiring supplies to build a catamaran, a Warham Gaia. And I may still build one of these days, but it's a 63-footer, 37 feet wide, 63 feet long, 1,800 square feet. Now we're talking about room to move around. And a huge deck, room that I can, drive my boat up on the back, my motorboat, drive it up on the back and keep it out of the water. I said, okay, now we're talking.
That's the shit. Yeah, I was under the impression you had like a houseboat or something, and you were going to be kicking it on the river, but you're going to be
That was my first.
Okay.
That's what I've had. Yeah, originally, when I was still on Facebook, I had a cabin cruiser. Yeah. And I was just going to do like the Mississippi and the Intercoastal Waterway and all that. And then I said, you know what? While you're young enough, because sailing's hard work, especially when you're solo. If you've got to run all the way forward and clear something off a cleat and then run all the way back to the cabin 3 or 4 times, it gets pretty tough.
Yeah.
And the sails are heavy and it's just hard work. I said, all right, Dan, let's do this now while you're still young enough to do a solo sail to Australia. Because when you're 70, good luck. And so I reset the entire boat. I ran all the lines and sheets back to the cockpit where I could do almost everything without ever leaving the cockpit. I got a really good autopilot. And I'm like, we're good to go, man. And then all this. So, such a shame. But I had it figured out that I could go to Australia, from Miami to Australia, for about $200. Because I would need to run the generator a little bit to keep my refrigerator going and stuff.
Pretty cheap, dude.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Because you just run the sails up and, okay, it takes me 60 days. So what? Where have I got to be? I could be home watching the Kardashians on TV, or I could be out here on the ocean doing this.
So obviously you got to stock up on supplies and all that, but
Yeah.
other than that, yeah, you just set your direction and your coordinates.
And really, like, let's say if you're going to go to Australia, I'd probably stop at Diego Garcia, and resupply, top off my fuel, get some supplies, that kind of thing. And there's a couple of places you could cut into a coast. So you wouldn't have to just 63 days, no sight of land. I'm dying out here like Captain Queeg. You wouldn't have to.
Oh, okay.
But you could. And that catamaran I'm building, that's the other thing about cats. Monohull sailboats, until you're talking about $20 million race boats, about 10 or 11 miles an hour, that's it. That's all they're going to do. Whereas a catamaran, in the right wind and right water conditions, you can get up closer to 25 miles an hour. So that's a hell of a lot quicker trip to Greece in a catamaran than in a monohull. And your whole world doesn't do this, which is the thing you notice when you're out on your sailboat, is after about 4 hours on your boat, you can't stand straight anymore because the boat's always leaning at an angle from the wind.
Just imagine doing that for day after day after day after day after day.
And you get on shore and you're like, Jesus Christ, I can't even stand up because you're trying to lean over and you keep waiting for your... Because my oven is on a gimbal, so it moves back and forth, my stove, with the boat. And you keep waiting, you get back home, and you keep waiting for the oven to move. And it's not moving. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, it's like if you jump on a trampoline for a while, and then you get off the trampoline, and you try and, like, jump or, like, do anything, and you're like... It's like, what the fuck?
Very similar.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's how I would imagine it. I've never experienced it, but it's...
But for the time being, I've kind of changed my plan. I'm going to do two things that I really wanted to do for a long time that are easy. And one of them is I want to buy a pontoon boat in Minnesota and just float it all the way to New Orleans. Just spend about 90 days just floating down the river, not caring about anything. And the other one is there's a world record that I want to pursue. Denison Dam, which is on the Red River north of Dallas. From Denison Dam to New Orleans, the record is 9 days. And it was set in 1959 by Roy Rogers, the singing cowboy, who owned a boat company. So owning a boat company and with like 400 people to help him, he managed that trip in 9 days. I want to do it by myself in less than 9 days. And I am currently building the boat to make that trip.
Excellent.
And so if I can't go to the Caribbean or I can't go to Italy, cool, we'll do some crazy shit here. Why not?
Fuck it. That's awesome, man.
But it's the Red River is weird. A lot of people don't know much about the Red, but at one point there was a log jam on the Red River that was 180 miles long. They called it the Great Raft. And it took a team of U.S. Army engineers 5 years with dynamite to blow this thing up so that they could actually get boats up the river. And they estimated that may have been there for 2,000 years. And if they hadn't done something, eventually it would have become a lake and the river would have gone around it and it would have changed everything. Mm-hmm. Anyway, there's quicksand all over the place. There's alligators, water moccasins. There's 200-300 mile stretches where there's nowhere you can get fuel. There's stretches where if you screw up, you're going to be literally hard aground forever. You can just abandon the boat because it's never coming off the ground. And I'm like, hell yeah, that sounds like a riot.
The Red River, huh? Damn.
And it's the Red River's north. It comes out of New Mexico. Actually, it comes out of Colorado, and then comes in across New Mexico and then Texas, and then meets the Mississippi at Little Rock, Arkansas.
That's some intense shit. Like the pioneers, like people don't think about that, but it's like they had drawings. You know, they like sent some dudes out like you're gonna go out west. You're gonna take this artiste. He's gonna draw pictures of it, and you're gonna like hopefully make it back and tell us what it looks like. And motherfuckers went out there. And there's that dude, the one-armed guy that did the Colorado River.
Oh, yeah.
John Wesley Powell. And, like, just those fucking crazy guys, dude, exploring the West. Just imagine, like, rolling up on foot to the Grand Canyon or something.
The first time you ever saw it, yeah.
You're just like, what the hell is... You know, or the Colorado River, or even the Gila, or shit. Like, we were just walking through the Gila, and we're like, dude, there's no way up this canyon. Yeah. Like, we have to turn around. Like,
Mike and I were talking the other night.
How many of those fucking situations did people run into where they're like,
in history,
we can't go this way. Like, we're going to have to just turn around and find another way.
When, I can't remember who the explorer was. One of the conquistadors had an accident in Florida, and there were 3 guys left alive, Esteban the Moor and 2 other guys. And they walked from Florida to Mexico City. It took them like 8 years. when there was nothing in America except hostile Native Americans. And Mike and I were like, can you imagine you've walked for a year fighting all kinds of horrible shit, and you get to the Mississippi River and go, now what? It's like 1.5 miles across this thing, man. There's alligators. Now what? And to think that that's not even 10% of the way to where you've got to go.
How the hell do you get across that thing? Yeah.
What do you do? I can't remember the comedian's name, but he had a great routine about it. He's like, yeah, now you get on an airplane in New York and you ride across the skies like a Greek god in a flaming chariot, and you're in L.A. in a couple hours. And back in the day, you'd leave Oregon, you go, okay, it's going to be 9 months. Half the party's going to die on the way. And when you get there, you won't know anybody because we'll have picked up all these new people. And you probably won't make it. It's like, God.
It's like The Walking Dead, literally. It's like we're Walking Dead people.
And you're going to go across country that no living white man has ever seen,
Oh, shit.
Mike and I do get a kick out of that. We were in a place in the Heelan. I can't remember the name of the canyon. But he made the observation. He said, Dan, there may not have been a white man in this canyon in ever. And like, Mike, you're right. There may not have, where we're standing right now, there may not have ever been another white man. There may have been some Native American hunting deer or whatever, but this is remote-ass stuff, Mm-hmm. You've been backpacking with us enough. Once you get 2 or 3 miles from the car, you'll never see another person. Because people are too damn lazy.
Yeah.
We used to notice even with the horseback hunters, they'd go to a campsite and get on their horse, and they'd ride their horse 3 miles and then set up camp. You're like, you rode a horse 3 miles? Why, so you could bring your giant screen TV?
Oh, man.
The horse is like, man, you're a fat, lazy bastard. You really are.
Yeah, the trail, it weeds people out, Like if you're
Mm-hmm.
if you're not serious about it, you're only gonna go so far, So when you're way out there, when you get far enough out, you're kind of on your own.
Oh, yeah.
Which is cool. That's the point.
That's the point. It's exactly.
Yeah.
I told my ex-girlfriend, Janie, she's like, well, what happens if something goes wrong out there? Well, I'm going to figure it out or I'm going to die, which is pretty much how life is every day.
What if something happens right here?
Yeah.
It's the same situation.
If you have a heart attack, I'm either going to help you or I'm going to call the hospital or you're going to die. Just like the woods. Except out there, you're not going to die from being shot by somebody, being run over by a drunk, being killed unjustly by the police. Nothing's going to happen out there.
What I'm realizing it is, too, it's just like anything else. This is just hitting me right now. But it's like the reason you go is to be present. Because you have to be conscious of where you're walking and how much food you have, how much water you have. Like, you have to be conscious. It forces you to be in the physical.
Yes, sir.
Which you're not in a lot of the time. You're just in this hypothetical, like, fucking thing that we live in up here, and you're like, you forget about your avatar that's like, yo, bitch, like, you're alive on Earth, like, you've got a few essential needs. The rest of the shit's just an illusion, really. If you strip it down enough, you're like, but it's kind of like meditating or being present,
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing with meditation, all the benefits or whatever, but it's about being present in the moment. Now, I've never been one to really like, I'm going to sit around and meditate or whatever. But there's things that have a meditative quality to it, like riding a motorcycle or something, or like
music,
skateboarding, music, whatever it is for you. But it's that thing where you're like hyper focused on just right here, right now. And I think like backpacking or being way the hell out somewhere on a journey where you're like, you're not exactly like hyper focused on it, but you're like, I got to watch my steps.
Yeah.
Like, cause I got to be able to walk out of here. Like I can't be like twisting my ankle or some shit.
Can't step on a rattlesnake out here.
Yeah, I got to think about like my moves. Where are we going? How far are we from whatever? It's just kind of cool in a way to like be like, no, dude, like the physical realm. Here you are. You're on your own for the next 3 days. Because if you're walking this loop, you're gonna get past the point of like either way is a real far way back. So
what's that Shakespeare line? To returns as tedious as to go back. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're just out there for a bit, and it's like it's
now
cool,
I'm gonna pull this. That Mogollon trip you and I and Mike went to try, I'm going to pull that this summer. I don't think Mike's going to go because it's going to be a gnarly-ass trip. But when I get ready to go, I'll let you know.
Yeah, we got to do another one.
This is going to be a once-in-a-lifetime shot, man. This is probably the best ghost town left in North America. I just upgraded my Google Earth to the pay subscription. Oh, dude.
You can zoom right in on it, huh?
And there is so much stuff. There's more buildings left there than there are in Bodie, California. Bodie is acknowledged as the best ghost town left in America, and this one isn't run by the Park Service like Bodie is.
You were telling me it's like a street with buildings on both sides.
It's like a movie. There's 27 damn buildings running down both sides of the street. Just like, and that's the ones that are standing. There's another 14 or 15 that have fallen. But that's the standing ones. And then there's a giant head frame that's 186 feet tall. Dude. Yeah. I mean, I don't get sexually excited about much, but yeah. If God said, Dan, you can go see that right now, but you'll never have sex again, I would have to think about it. Because it's that important to me. I mean, I've had sex before. This ghost town is a once in a while shot, you know?
It'll only be one time.
Yeah.
If ever. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going to make that one this summer because we're going to start losing more. 7 or 8 years ago, we had real bad fire season, and we lost 2 ghost towns in New Mexico that had been here forever. Burnt to the ground.
Gone.
So now I will never get a chance to see those 2. One of them is probably for the best because I was going to, right in the middle of Ted Turner's ranch, and I was going to have about a 26-mile walk each way to get in and get out, and I was going to do it. But, God, that's a... And it's not like you can claim, well, I just made a wrong turn when you're 25 miles inside somebody's place.
Yeah.
And he's got the attorneys to basically crucify me.
Man.
There's still some good ones, though, man. There's still some good stuff to see.
We got to get out there and get them.
I'm going to make it my mission in life this year. The next 10 months, I'm going to see more than I've seen in the last 23 years. I've got that motorcycle running, that bicycle I bought and then never rode. Yeah, I've got it running again. And that's why I bought it, was to go see these ghost towns. That's the whole reason I bought that bike. And I've never ridden it.
You'll get there. Yeah, just make it a priority. I was just thinking that too. I'm like, man, I just need to schedule it. Just schedule it. Like, what are we doing this year? Like, I was just thinking about, like, talking to Amy, like, all right, like, what do you want to do this year? Like, and just putting it on the calendar and just making it happen.
Yes.
Because otherwise you'll just forget and time will go by.
Piss off another year.
Yeah.
Even if it's not something huge, even if we're going to go to Galveston and eat shrimp and stay 3 days on the beach. Do something. Anything. Make a goal and go do it. Get out of your comfort zone. Go be a stranger in a strange land.
That's beautiful.
It's amazing for you. A lot of people don't like that, but and Brent looked at me like I was out of my mind. I said, Brent, part of the reason I want to go on this boat is because I would love to be somewhere where nobody knows my name. Where I could be there 2 weeks and nobody will go, hey, Dan, because nobody knows who I am. And he looked at me like I was out of my damn mind. But Brent's super social.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's good for you to get out of your comfort zone and go do things that you wouldn't normally do, that maybe even make you paranoid or weirded out. Deal with it.
Well, because like you're saying, there's like a level to yourself that's not who people think you are.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, oh, what's up, Dan? Like, Dan is like this theoretical group of assumptions and like things that you identify with or whatever, right? But really, it's like Fight Club, where it's like, you are not the contents of your wallet.
There you go.
You are not your fucking khakis or whatever. There's like some good lines in that movie. Obviously, it's a great movie. But you're like, there's a level of yourself that's not any of those things.
Sure.
And it's got to be refreshing to just tap into that. Where like, dude, nobody knows me. I mean, it is. Like, I went to SF by myself.
There you go.
And I just took a skate trip out there and went up the Pacific Coast Highway and stuff. But you're like, I mean, you got a phone and you know the gas stations and like it's not like you're on your own for that long, really.
Right.
But you kind of are. Like, no one knows who the fuck you are. No one cares about you. You're just like out there like cruising along, and it's like It's nice. It's nice to do that sometimes. And like I'm just like, I'm gonna go skate these spots just like by myself, like, and I just had to do it. It was like one of those things. Like, so I understand that urge, to like just be out there on the land and like,
Oh yeah.
kind of like you don't have a name. Like, even if you have a name, no one knows who the hell you are. It doesn't matter.
The first boat trip
like,
I took, right after I bought my boat, I went from Baton Rouge down the Mississippi to New Orleans and over to Muscle Shoals, Alabama. And I only went there because Muscle Shoals has a very famous recording studio.
Sure.
And I had to go. So I show up in town on a boat. I have not been to Muscle Shoals in almost 40 years. Nobody knows me. And you step off the boat and you're like, I am whatever I want to be today. I am whoever I need to be. My fraternity brothers would never, if you said, is Dan one of the angriest people you've ever known? They'd go, fuck no. But around here, people go, ooh, Dan's an angry son of a bitch. When you go someplace like that, you're whoever you are today. The only thing people are going to know about you is the 30 seconds you have an encounter with them in public. You're ordering an ice cream. You're really nice to the lady. When you leave, so you're going to go, man, that's a really nice guy. That's all they're going to know about you.
Sure.
And it's a wonderfully freeing moment. It really is. And you can, what was that name of that? There was a book that got turned into a movie where there was a husband and a wife couple, and one day he'd go out and be really nice and she'd go out and be a vicious bitch. And the next day they'd switch roles. And he'd be an asshole and she'd be really nice to everybody. And then they'd come home at night and laugh about it. I can't remember what it was. But that's kind of who you can be.
What a crazy social experiment, huh?
Yeah.
It's like, you're one decision away from living a completely different life.
Yep.
Like just deciding one day, like, no, I'm gonna be this guy now.
On that trip to Muscle Shoals.
You could just change.
Yeah. The first person that heard me say my name caught it as Don, not Dan. So for 48 hours, I was Don.
Why not?
Nobody knew my last name. They didn't have my right first name. And you're like, this is kind of cool. I am someone else today. You know, it was interesting.
That is really interesting.
I didn't start like making up backstories like I'm from Boston or whatever, but you know, it was just kind of cool.
What's up, Don? You're like, sure, we'll go with that.
Sure. I've been waiting too long for this single malt scotch.
Let's do it.
I think we got to try this one.
Let's cap it.
I think you can tell I like that one a little bit.
Absolutely.
Now, this is Shielding, Speyside. It's a single malt scotch. There are a whole list of rules you got to follow to be true Scotch whiskey. And this 18-year aged, and I've had it 6 or 7 years. So what's left in there is about 25 years old.
Wow.
And it's the nectar of the gods. I want to rub my nipples with it, you know what I mean? Julius Caesar had his genitals washed in Scotch whiskey, I'm sure. Oh, this stuff is just awesome. I'm going to pour us a little bigger one since we're not drunk and we're through the experiment.
There you go. I appreciate you sampling them with me, man.
Oh, man, this is... Much as I love Brent and Mike, this is not the kind of thing I think they would do with me. Well, Mike would, but then he'd just bitch about all the whiskey. Elizabeth is going to be a hoot because she's a mixture of Mike and her mother and me.
Mm.
And she's going to be a hoot to be around because now I'm starting to see her stand up to her dad, where it was always, Pharaoh was in charge. And now you're getting a little bit of, I don't think so, pal. And you're like, I love it. I love that kid to death. I'm so glad Mike chose me to be her godfather.
Yeah.
It's a super cool experience.
She is cool, man. She's cool.
I was telling somebody earlier this year, August, September, they said, so you're a godfather? And I said, yeah. I don't really understand that godfather thing other than the movies. And I'm like, okay, I get it. I'm not a murderous Italian who cuts off horse heads and stuff. And I tried to explain what it is to be a godfather from the Catholic perspective. And I said, now, that said, she is my goddaughter. And if you get on the wrong side of her, I will be an Italian godfather.
Nice.
He's like, okay, so let's avoid that one. That is about $90 a bottle whiskey.
Single malt.
That particular brand.
Scotch whiskey. Shield.
Shildag.
Nice.
And it's not nearly the best out there, but it's about the best I can bring myself to pay for. Because you look at some of those, you're going, $290. I just can't do it.
Nah, your sleeping bag, totally worth it.
I'm going to use that many times. Yeah.
Not so much.
If Jesus and Elvis and John Lennon were in town, I would step up and buy a $190 bottle and we'd split it, but not for anything other than that. Oh, I'm going to sip this one nice and slow. Oh, my God. Yeah, liquid sex.
Unbelievable. Like, you're like, yeah, I mean, he's saying it's good, but it is really, really good. Exceptionally good and exceptionally smoother than the rest. Like I mean, numbers above the rest.
Yep. And it's there's so many things that go into it: the aging process, the barrels, the recipe, the grain. Americans use so much corn that it's going to be higher. It's just the nature of the beast. And I'm not saying that's bad. The beautiful thing about whiskey is there's no damn rules. If you love Jack Daniels out of a red Solo cup, kick ass, man.
That's
Good
your
for
thing.
you.
Yep.
I'm not, who the hell am I to tell you don't want that? And if you want to drink $500 bottled scotch out of a thimble once a year, cool. I'm fine with that too. I probably would recommend against being my brother where you're drinking a $100 bottle of scotch a week, unless you've got a really good job.
$400 a month on whiskey. Yeah. Oh man.
One of my frat brothers has been looking at setting up a YouTube channel, and I haven't talked to Grant, or I would encourage it, but he wants to set up the Texas Whiskey Experience because he bought a place out in the hill country with a beautiful old barn with magnificent wood, and he wants to like put in a man cave and each week do like a 30-minute, here's the whiskey we're checking out today. And I'm like, hell yeah, Grant, people would love it. Have a good cigar and a good whiskey once a week. And I think people would love it. Cigar. That is the other reason I bought a sailboat, Pat. I have a bizarre desire to go and see Cuba while there's something to see. Because if we wait very long, America will Disneyfy it like we do everything. Mm-hmm. And right now you could go down there. I speak a little Spanish, buy some Cuban clothes, and go stay off the tourist strip and experience Cuba like it's been for 60 years. Because in another 10 years, it'll be gone.
It'll just be another American state.
Yeah, it'll be
over
neon
there.
signs and brand new cars and chicks with fake boobies everywhere. It'll be everything that sucks about America. And all of the beauty of what was traditional Cuba will be gone. Now, I'm not dogging on America. I'm an American. I love America. But everything has to be over the fucking top here or it's shit. We were talking about that earlier. And I don't buy the Kantian Hegelian dialectic at all that life is shit with moments of good. No. I prefer the Socratian. Life is wonderful with moments of crap. And some of those moments of crap cut all the way to the bone. But I haven't had nearly as many bad nights in my life as I've had nights like this.
Right on.
And that's the perspective you got to get out of that, man.
That's fucking awesome, man. Excellent.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to suffer in life. But life is not all suffering, man.
What is it? You suffer twice? A lot of times we suffer twice because you're thinking about it first, or it's something along those lines.
I know the saying, yeah.
Yeah.
You can punish yourself forever if you want to, or you can just... I mean, I hate to sound like a damn hippie because I'm not, but just relax a little bit, let go. Don't hold on to anything quite so tight, and the flavor's a lot better of life, you know?
That's awesome. Yeah, because, I mean, your body suffers the physical response of your thoughts. So if you think about experiencing something, they've proven this with all kinds of different stuff, but your body doesn't perceive it any other way other than actually experiencing it. So, like, it's like you can fuck yourself up with stress,
Sure.
you know?
Induce a heart attack, all kinds of things.
Because your body is literally feeling the stress even though you're just creating it in your head. So that's why you suffer twice, kind of. It's not just your body, but your whole, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah, it's like...
And I'm a firm believer that you've got to...
It's perspective.
Perspective. There's going to be suffering in life. Everybody suffers. Everybody loses. There's no free lunch. But if you look back at your life, and with any level of honesty, there's a whole lot more good days than bad. And if you'll learn to take the thing with the sunrises and sunsets, if you're not going to have a good day unless you're driving a brand new car and you have an amazing lunch and you go to Disney, you're not going to have very many good days. But if you can stop and just go, man, that is a badass sunrise, that's a good way to start a lot of days.
That's being alive.
Yeah. And there's pain. Yeah, there's suffering. People are going to die. But God, life is so good if you'll just let it be. A good book, a good meal, petting your dog, hanging out with your friends, the wind in your hair.
Nothing like that.
Yeah. Watching this sunset go down over those mountains is a better sunset than I've seen anywhere in the world in my life. And I've done some traveling. And if you'll just take the time, go out, sit on the steps, have a smoke, have a beer, and just go, man, that's a badass sunset. It's a lot better day than it's a shit day in my job and my fucking kids and goddamn garbage, man. Oh, sunset, whatever.
That's great, man. That's a great way of putting it.
I broke up with my last solid girlfriend, Janie, because she just couldn't have a moment. One thing goes wrong, the whole day's crap. You're like, no. Okay, if I get shot in the head first thing in the morning, the rest of my day's crap. Yes. Short of that, it's not going to screw up the rest of my day. I'm just not going to be that angry about it, you know? I've got good friends. I've got my health. I got a little money in my pocket. I'm not dying. I'm not hungry. That's a good day, bro.
It's a great
good day.
It's a damn good day. Cheers to that, man. You want to close it out with that?
Absolutely, Pat. It has been a genuine pleasure. I enjoyed the whiskey journey with you.
Dude, thank you for taking me on the world tour.
Absolutely. We'll do it again with something else sometime. Maybe not on the podcast, but we'll just do another.
Oh yeah, well we definitely need to do another podcast one of these days for sure.
I've really been enjoying watching them. It's been a cool series. I have big plans for you in the long term. I expect great success from you. So this was another part of the Pat empire.
Cool. Yeah, man. We're all just someone from somewhere, you know, but it's everyone that helps us get there, you know.
I'm telling you, the whole reason I had you sign those skateboards for me was so that someday I can go, yeah, I know this guy. I actually knew that.
Yeah, man. Well, I feel honored to have you on, man. And
well, thank you for having me.
I mean, not just to have you on, but just fucking hang out, you know, like always. To me, it's just hanging out. This is all like...
Yeah, extraneous.
Yeah, but yeah, for sure.
Life gets in the way. We don't hang like we used to because we can't. That's just real life. Yep. And it's not going to get easier as time goes on. It's going to get worse.
That's why we got to schedule that new backpacking trip, man. We're going to make that shit happen.
As soon as I get Mike even to decide yes or no, I'll let you know. I'm going. And I'm just giving Mike some slack to pick a time.
Over the summer to the ghost town?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where's that one at again?
Magion.
Oh, the same one. We got to go back and get that motherfucker.
Oh, yeah, I'm not missing that one, dude. And like I said, especially with the new Google Earth, there's so much there to see. And I'm not a souvenir taker, so I'm not going to steal anything while we're there. But I am going to sit down in one of those buildings and like make coffee and have lunch like I lived there 120 years ago.
Let's do that shit, man. Let's put it on the books.
I'm down. Let's get it done, Pat.
What are you thinking? Like June, July?
My only concern is we've got no rain right now. If we don't get any rain, before you're out of school, they'll close the forest down. So we kind of got to wait a little and see what the rain is. If we get any rain, I say we go as quick as you're out of school. Because then we're not worried about the summer fire danger going on.
Into May?
Yeah. Yeah, end of May, first week of June, do it. Get in there and get it so that let's say where there is a fire this year and it burns the damn thing down, we didn't miss it.
Yeah, we got to get there while we can.
Hell yeah.
Cool, man.
Well, Pat, thank you so much for having me, brother.
Dude, cheers.